When my son asked for my dressing recipe 3 days before Christmas, I thought he was trying to be cute. "You know I'm already making it," I said, pinning the phone between my shoulder and ear while I checked the cornbread in the oven. "Unless you've developed a second stomach since Sunday." Marcus gave a small laugh, but it stopped too quickly. Then I heard Natalie behind him. "Tell her to send it, don't bring it." She wasn't shouting. That would have been easier. She sounded distracted, as if she were reminding him to order batteries. The kitchen went quiet except for the oven fan. Marcus cleared his throat. "So yeah, if you could text it, that'd be great." I stared at the blue serving dish I had taken down for Christmas. "Am I not bringing the dressing? We're trying something different this year. You're serving it through the mail?" "Mom." I pulled the oven door open, though the timer hadn't gone off. Heat struck my face. The cornbread had risen nearly to the rim of Walter's old skillet, golden at the edges, pale in the middle. I asked, "Am I still coming?" Marcus didn't answer right away. That was when I knew the question had already been answered somewhere else. He began with the kind of sigh people use when they're about to explain your own feelings to you. "Natalie wants the first Christmas in the new house to be simple, just immediate family." I set the potholder on the counter. I see. What I actually saw was Natalie's mother, Darlene, sitting at their new dining table. Her brothers, Scott and Andrew, would be there with their wives. Natalie's cousin Paige had mentioned at Thanksgiving that she was bringing a bottle of wine. All of them apparently fit inside the word immediate. Marcus kept talking. "We were going to come by afterward." "You were?" "Of course. We'll bring you a plate." A laugh slipped out of me. It wasn't a pleasant one. A plate of my own dressing? "Come on, Mom, don't make it sound like that. Like what?" Behind him, a cabinet slammed. Natalie said something I couldn't make out. Marcus lowered his voice. "It's one day. We'll have our Christmas with you after." Our Christmas. As if Christmas were a utility appointment that could be rescheduled between errands. I looked around my kitchen. The pecans were already toasted. 3 onions sat in a wooden bowl beside the celery. The blue dish had belonged to my mother, and I had wrapped it in towels before carrying it through 2 moves because every Christmas dressing I could remember had been served from that dish. I had also bought Marcus a charcoal sweater because Natalie said he owned nothing decent for photographs. Her gift, a pair of gold earrings she had admired in October, was wrapped beneath my tree. "When were you planning to tell me?" I asked. "We're telling you now." "No. You asked for the recipe now. That's different." He was quiet. The oven timer began shrieking. I let it. "Mom, the cornbread, I know what the sound is." I took the skillet out and set it on the stove. The crust had darkened while we talked, but it wasn't burned. Walter had liked it that way. He used to come up behind me, break off a corner, and deny it while chewing. Marcus had inherited his father's smile and none of his courage. "I have to go," I said. "Can you send the recipe first?" I looked at the phone. He must have heard something in my breathing because he added, "Please?" "Of course," I said. "You wouldn't want Christmas ruined." I ended the call before he could tell me I was being dramatic. My first impulse was to call Camille. That embarrassed me almost as soon as I thought it. My daughter lived 2 hours away, and I had spent years telling her not to take Marcus's behavior personally. He forgot dates because work was hectic. He left early because Natalie was tired. He didn't call back because he assumed Camille knew he loved her. "Be the bigger person," I had said often enough that I could hear Camille's imitation of me. I didn't want to tell her that the smaller person had finally stepped on me. Instead, I turned off the oven, washed the mixing bowl, and wiped a clean counter that did not need wiping. My phone buzzed. "Marcus." "Sorry, that was awkward." I waited. A second message appeared. "Can you send measurements? Natalie needs to shop tonight." Not, "I'm sorry you're hurt." Not, "I should have told you sooner." Not even, "Are you all right?" I opened the drawer beside the stove and took out the old recipe box. It was white metal with tiny yellow flowers worn away around the latch. Most of the cards inside were in my mother's handwriting or mine. The dressing recipe wasn't there. It had never needed to be. I had made it beside my mother from the time I was tall enough to see into a bowl. Later, Walter had sat at the table and chopped celery too slowly while Christmas music played from a radio with a bent antenna. Marcus used to wander in, lift the dish towel, and ask whether the cornbread was ready, even after I told him 3 times it needed to dry overnight. When he was 26 and Walter was too sick to come to the table, Marcus had eaten dressing from a paper plate beside his father's bed. "It tastes right," Walter had whispered after one bite. Marcus had looked at me then as if I had rescued the whole day. Now he wanted measurements. I sat at the kitchen table with a blank card and began writing. 2 pans of cornbread, 1 large onion, 4 ribs of celery, 3 cups of broth to start. I stopped at the sage. My mother had measured sage in the palm of her hand. Walter used to complain that every year I claimed not to know how much I used, yet every year it tasted the same. I could have left something out. I could have doubled the salt or told Natalie to cover the dish so tightly it turned into paste. Petty ideas arrived with surprising ease. I wrote the truth instead. Rubbed sage, approximately 2 tablespoons. Add gradually and taste. My phone rang again before I finished. This time it was Natalie. I nearly let it go to voicemail. Then I answered because not answering would have turned me into a topic at their house. "Hi, Ruth." Her voice was bright and careful. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't a misunderstanding. There wasn't. A pause. "Marcus said you seemed upset." Marcus has always been observant after the useful part of the conversation is over. She ignored that. Natalie was good at stepping around sentences she didn't want to pick up. "I hope you know this isn't personal." I looked at the cooling skillet. "You told him to send my recipe and not bring me. That feels fairly specific." I said, "Don't bring it." "No, you said don't bring it while he was talking to me about the recipe. Unless you were worried he'd arrive with a sack of flour, I understood you." She breathed out through her nose. "This is exactly why Marcus was nervous to tell you. That sentence almost impressed me. Somehow my reaction had traveled backward in time and caused their decision. I wasn't aware he was nervous," I said. "He sounded hungry. We just want to establish our own traditions with my dressing. It's his favorite." "Yes, I know. And honestly, Ruth, whenever you come early to help, you take over." There it was. Not the whole truth, maybe, but something solid enough to put a hand on. I thought of last Thanksgiving when Natalie had forgotten to thaw the rolls, and I drove back to my house for the ones in my freezer. I had rearranged her place settings because there wasn't room for the serving bowls. I had corrected the temperature on the oven without asking. I also remembered Natalie sitting on a stool with a glass of wine while I washed the roasting pan. "You could have asked me not to come early," I said. "I shouldn't have to manage you in my own home." And excluding me was easier? "We're not excluding you. Marcus said we're coming by afterward." "For how long?" "What? How long were you planning to stay?" She went quiet. I said, "An hour, 30 minutes? Long enough to hand me a plate and watch me open the gifts I bought you? You're twisting this." "No, I'm trying to picture it correctly. We have a lot of people coming. I thought it was simple." Another pause. Then she said, "My family doesn't get together often, neither did mine, but I was beginning to understand that I had never counted myself as a family. I had counted myself as the person who made family happen." Natalie's voice softened. "I know the timing isn't ideal. The timing is Christmas. I mean telling you this close to the day. That wasn't ideal either. I told Marcus to tell you weeks ago. That surprised me, and she knew it had." I sat back. "Weeks?" He said he'd handle it. Through the window above the sink, I could see the brown winter grass and the string of lights Walter had once nailed beneath the eaves. Half of them no longer worked. Every December, Marcus promised he would replace them. Natalie continued. "I assumed you knew." "No," I said. "He handled it by asking for the dressing. I'm not trying to hurt you." The strange thing was, I believed her. Hurting me had not been the goal. My hurt was simply a cost she considered acceptable. "I'll send the recipe to Marcus," I said. "Thank you." And maybe we can do brunch next weekend. Maybe, a word people used when they wanted credit for an invitation without the burden of setting a time. I'll look at my calendar. She gave a small, humorless laugh. Okay, Ruth. We said goodbye with the chilly politeness of women ending a business call. I finished writing the recipe, then typed it into a message because Marcus would complain that he couldn't read my handwriting. At the bottom, I added, "The broth amount depends on how dry the cornbread is. Add it slowly. Bake until the center is set and the top smells toasted." He replied within a minute. "How long exactly?" I wrote. "Pay attention." 3 dots appeared, vanished, and appeared again. "Okay, thanks, Mom. Love you." There was a time when those last 2 words could excuse almost anything. Maybe there still was. That frightened me more than Natalie's sentence. I covered the cornbread with a dish towel and carried the blue serving dish back to the dining room. The table was already extended for 6, though I had been expecting only 3 people after Christmas dinner: Marcus, Natalie, and me. I had polished the candlesticks and laid out Walter's heavy silverware. I began removing the place settings. After the first one, I stopped. Taking down the table felt too much like admitting they had done something final. Leaving it up felt like waiting for people who had already told me they weren't coming. The doorbell rang. I expected a package. Instead, Denise Mercer stood on the porch wearing a red knit hat with a pom-pom large enough to have its own weather system. She held a cardboard box against her hip. "You've got my baking dish," she said. "And I've got your mail because apparently the federal government thinks we're the same widow." I opened the door wider. "Come in." She took one look at my face and set the box down. "Who died?" "Nobody." "Then who called?" I laughed before I could stop myself. Denise's expression changed. "That bad?" Behind me, my phone buzzed again on the kitchen table. Marcus had sent another message. "Do you still have the big roasting pan? Natalie says ours is too small." Denise watched me read it. "Well?" she asked. For the first time in years, I didn't know whether I was about to save Christmas or let it happen without me. "Apparently, I still have the big roasting pan," I said. Denise picked up her box and carried it into the kitchen as if she lived there. She set it beside my phone, read the message upside down, and snorted. "Does he want you to preheat it too? He's cooking for a crowd. So is every restaurant in the county." I opened the lower cabinet beside the refrigerator. The roasting pan was in the back, wedged beneath a stock pot and a griddle I hadn't used since Walter died. Getting it out required kneeling on the floor. Denise leaned against the counter. And that's a dignified position. Either help or keep your observations to yourself. She took the griddle from me and set it aside. I'm helping emotionally. The pan scraped across the cabinet floor. It was heavy stainless steel, large enough for the turkey Walter once bought because it was on sale and then realized would not fit in our oven. Marcus had been 23. He and Walter removed one of the oven racks and spent half an hour arguing about geometry while the turkey sat on the counter. I stood and inspected the pan. It needs washing. It's clean. It's dusty. Dust is just seasoning from the house. That's why nobody lets you cook. People let me cook. They just don't let me bring it. I looked at her. Her face tightened. "Sorry." "No, it was funny. It was almost funny." I ran hot water into the pan. Denise removed her hat and smoothed her flattened silver hair with both hands. "Are you going over there tomorrow?" "No, but they're coming here after?" "That is the current proposal. And you said yes." I didn't say anything. That's not the same as yes. With Marcus, it often is. She watched me squeeze soap onto the sponge. Denise had a way of waiting that made silence feel like a chair you had chosen to sit in. She had been my neighbor for 11 years and my friend for 8 because the first 3 years she disliked the way I corrected her recycling. Finally, she asked, "Who all is going to their house?" Natalie's mother, her brothers, their wives, Paige, immediate Paige, apparently. Maybe the family tree is shaped differently on that side. I rinsed the pan harder than necessary. Natalie says I take over. Do you? I help. That wasn't my question. I turned off the water. Denise smiled without showing her teeth. You alphabetized the spices in my kitchen when I had pneumonia. You couldn't find anything. I knew where everything was before you fixed it. That cumin was 4 years old. It had sentimental value. I dried the pan. There's a difference between reorganizing a sick woman's spices and excluding your husband's mother from Christmas. There sure is. I could have stayed out of her kitchen if she'd asked. There sure is, she repeated. I knew what she was doing, agreeing with me just enough to keep me from turning her into an enemy. My phone buzzed again. Mom. Then a moment later. I can come get it. I typed, I'll leave it on the porch. Denise read my face. He coming? He can pick it up. Are you going to make him stand outside? No, I'm going to leave the pan outside. He can stand wherever he likes. She nodded approvingly. That was almost mean. I'm not trying to be mean. That's why you're not very good at it. I carried the pan to the foyer and set it beside the front door. When I returned, Denise had lifted the towel and broken a corner off my cornbread. You've become Walter, I said. I'm honored. You should be ashamed. She ate the evidence. Come to my house tomorrow. I began folding the dish towel over the damaged corner. I appreciate it. That wasn't a condolence. It was an invitation. I already have plans. Waiting for Marcus to drop by is not a plan. It's a hostage situation with Pi. I have gifts for them. They can get gifts another day. It's Christmas. Yes, Ruth. That's why I'm serving food and not inviting you to clean my gutters. I busied myself with the pecans, moving the sealed container from one side of the counter to the other. Who's coming? My brother Calvin, assuming he and his third wife have not reconciled by noon. Esther Bell from choir. Leonard Price said yes, but Leonard says yes to anything involving ham. That sounds nice. It sounds like 5 adults trying not to admit we'd rather be somewhere else. You'll improve the average. I smiled despite myself. I'll think about it. Good. Think while putting your casserole in my oven at 1 tomorrow. I didn't say I was bringing anything. Denise stared at me. All right, I said. I might bring the dressing. There we go. Exploit the vulnerable widow. You're a widow, too. Yes, but I have plans. She put on her hat and carried the box toward the door. On her way out, she glanced at the half-set dining table. You might want to put the silver away, she said gently. It'll tarnish. After she left, I removed the remaining place settings. I was wrapping the silverware in its cloth when headlights moved across the front window. Marcus had arrived sooner than I expected. He knocked, even though he had a key. For one foolish second, I thought that meant he had come to apologize. I opened the door. He stood with his hands in the pockets of a navy coat I had given him 2 Christmases earlier. At 39, he still looked younger when he was uncomfortable. His hair curled at the temples in damp weather just as it had when he was in college, and the sight of it made tenderness rise in me before I could stop it. Hey, he said. Hello? He looked past me toward the foyer. You put it out. You said you were coming for the pan. Right. Neither of us moved. Finally, he stepped inside, picked up the roasting pan, and balanced it against his hip. It made him look like a delivery man who had forgotten the delivery. Natalie called you, he said. She did. She felt bad. That makes one of us. His mouth tightened. I feel bad. About what? He glanced toward the kitchen. Can we not do this right now? You came into my house to get the pan. Then we don't have to do anything. You can get the pan. I reached for the door. Mom. He lowered his voice, though no one else was there. I know this isn't how you pictured Christmas. I looked at him. How did you picture it? We thought we'd have dinner there and then come see you. What time? Probably 7. 7:30. Natalie's family leaves at 6? I don't know when they're leaving. So you'll come after they leave. Would you rather we not come at all? There it was, the choice offered in the shape he preferred. Accept the scraps or be accused of refusing the meal. I'd rather you had told me before I baked cornbread and set the table. His eyes traveled toward the dining room. He saw the extended table, the candlesticks, the single stack of wrapped silverware I hadn't put away. Why did you set it for 6? I set it for 6 because I thought you might bring Darlene. I didn't want her eating alone. Marcus looked down. The humiliation came fresh and hot. I had worried about his mother-in-law being left out while he was arranging to leave me out. I was going to tell you, he said. Natalie says she asked you weeks ago. His head came up. She told you that? She didn't need to protect you. It wasn't like that. What was it like? I kept hoping she'd change her mind. And when she didn't? He shifted the pan to his other side. I knew you'd be hurt, so you waited until you needed something. I didn't plan it that way. Marcus rarely planned his worst decisions. He simply delayed every uncomfortable moment until someone else had fewer choices. I asked, "Did you tell Natalie you wanted me there?" "Of course I did. What did you say? That's between me and my wife." "Then why are you standing between your wife and your mother asking both of us to believe you tried?" His face changed. I saw anger arrive because shame had become too painful. "Natalie has put up with a lot, Mom. From me. She never feels like anything she does is good enough for you. I bought earrings she wanted and lent you a pan to cook dinner I'm not invited to. That's a strange way to show disapproval. It's not about things. No, it isn't." He exhaled and looked toward the ceiling. "You always do this." "Do what?" "Make one thing represent everything." I almost told him he was right. One dinner was not everything. It was only a table, a meal, an afternoon in December. But he had asked for the recipe that carried every Christmas of his life, and somehow expected me not to notice that the woman who made it had become inconvenient. Instead, I said, "Take the pan, Marcus." He tucked it beneath his arm. "We'll come tomorrow night. I may not be here." That stopped him. "What do you mean?" "I've been invited somewhere. For Christmas?" "Yes, Marcus. Other people celebrate it." He frowned as though Denise had violated an agreement. "Where?" "Denise's." "You're going to spend Christmas with your neighbor?" "I believe that's why she invited me." He rubbed a hand over his jaw. "Fine. We can come later. I don't know when I'll be home. You can text me. I could." He stared at me, waiting for the familiar version of his mother to appear and smooth the roughness from the conversation. I waited too. She did not come. Marcus opened the door. Cold air slipped inside around him. "Merry Christmas, Mom. Merry Christmas." He took 2 steps onto the porch, then turned. "Did you already make the cornbread?" "Yes. Could we take it? Just in case ours doesn't turn out?" I laughed. I couldn't help it. His face reddened. It was just a question. "No." "Okay. The recipe says it should dry overnight." Natalie bought boxed mix. That isn't what the recipe says. We didn't have time to do everything from scratch. You had weeks. He flinched because we both knew I wasn't talking about cornbread. I closed the door while he was still standing beneath the porch light. Christmas morning arrived gray and wet. I woke before 6 out of habit and lay in bed listening to rain tap against the windows. For 37 years, Christmas morning had begun with a list in my head. Turn the oven on, take the butter out, check the turkey, call Camille, remind Marcus what time we were eating. This year there was nothing I had to do. Freedom and grief turned out to feel remarkably similar before daylight. At 9, Marcus called. I watched his name pulse on the screen until it stopped. A voicemail appeared, followed by a text. "Quick question. Dressing seems really wet." "Call me?" I carried the phone into the kitchen. The cornbread waited beneath its towel. I broke it into a bowl, added the onion and celery I had cooked in butter, and rubbed sage between my palms. The movement steadied me. Marcus called again. I let it ring while I added the broth slowly, half a cup at a time. At 12:30, I put on a green dress Walter had always liked, packed the dressing into my mother's blue serving dish, and carried it across the wet lawn to Denise's house. She opened the door wearing an apron that said, "Kiss the cook at your own risk." "You came," she said. I said I might. "You also brought the good dish. This is serious." Behind her, voices rose from the dining room. Someone laughed too loudly. A ham sat beneath foil on the counter, and the whole house smelled like cloves. My phone buzzed in my purse. I did not look at it. Denise took the blue dish from my hands without asking me to serve it. "Come in," she said. "There's a chair for you." I stepped inside and immediately wished I had brought something less recognizable than my mother's serving dish. The dining room held 4 people, who all knew enough about me to understand why I was there. Calvin Mercer stood when he saw me. He was Denise's older brother, a tall, narrow man with a white mustache and the solemn posture of someone arriving at his own sentencing. I had met him twice before, both times during marriages Denise had predicted would fail. "Ruth," he said, "Merry Christmas." "Merry Christmas, Calvin." "You remember Esther," Denise said. Esther Bell turned from the window, wearing a purple velvet jacket and enough silver jewelry to make music when she moved. She sang beside Denise in the church choir and had once corrected the minister's pronunciation of Nebuchadnezzar from the second row. "Of course," Esther said. "Ruth makes the lemon cake." Apparently we all entered this house identified by our most useful dish. Leonard Price remained seated. He was a broad man in a plaid shirt with both hands folded across his stomach as though protecting it from competition. "I've been told you made the dressing," he said. "I did." He pointed to the empty chair beside him. "You should sit here." "That chair's for Calvin," Denise said. "Calvin doesn't have dressing." Calvin nodded. "He makes a fair point." I took off my coat. "I can help in the kitchen." "No," Denise said. I know what you meant. Sit down." 4 adults watched to see whether I could obey a simple instruction. I sat. It felt unnatural. My hands had nowhere to go. The table needed water glasses, the napkins were still stacked in a basket, and the butter was cold enough to break bread. Denise moved around the kitchen opening drawers, muttering because she could not find the carving knife. "It's in the narrow drawer beside the stove," I said. She leaned around the doorway. "How do you know that?" "You asked me to feed your cat when you went to Richmond. So you searched my kitchen?" "I needed scissors." "For the cat? The bag of food wouldn't open." Esther lifted one eyebrow. That explanation got worse as it went. Calvin poured me wine. "You'll want this." I accepted the glass, though I rarely drank before eating. The first sip warmed my throat. My phone buzzed inside my purse. Denise heard it. "If that's your son, he can wait until after Grace. It may be Camille. Camille can wait until after Grace, too. God has waited all morning." Esther said, "That is not how grace works. It is in my house." Leonard glanced toward the kitchen. "How long does grace usually take?" For the first time that day, I laughed without hearing bitterness inside it. Denise brought in the ham, looking slightly alarmed by its size. We passed bowls and dishes around the table with none of the choreography I was used to. Esther nearly put her sleeve in the gravy. Calvin dropped a green bean on the floor and kicked it beneath the table when he thought Denise wasn't looking. Leonard took 2 helpings of my dressing before everyone had taken one. At my Christmas table, I would have noticed every mistake. At Denise's, nobody needed the day to prove anything. "This is excellent," Calvin said, pointing his fork at the dressing. "What's in it?" "Cornbread, onion, celery, pecans, sage." "That's it?" "Mostly." Leonard shook his head. "People always say mostly when there's a secret." "There's no secret." "Then why doesn't everybody's taste like this?" I looked down at my plate. "They rush it." Denise sat across from me. She did not smile, but I could tell she had heard more in my answer than Leonard had. Calvin asked if I had made it for my family, and a small silence opened at the table. I could have lied. It would have been easy to say Marcus and Natalie were eating elsewhere this year, which was true enough to pass inspection. But Denise had not invited me, so I could spend the meal protecting them. "My son's wife wanted my recipe," I said. "She didn't want me to bring it." Leonard stopped chewing. Esther slowly set down her fork. "Did she say that?" "Word for word." "And your son?" "He asked me to text the measurements." Denise took a sip of wine. Calvin's face tightened with immediate sympathy. I disliked it. Sympathy made the wound feel visible, and I had spent all morning trying to tuck it beneath my clothing. Esther said, "That's ugly. They want their own traditions." With your dressing? Leonard asked. So I'm told. He considered this. Did theirs turn out? My phone has rung 3 times, so I'm guessing no. Leonard smiled. Good. No, I said more sharply than I intended. Not good. Everyone looked at me. I folded my napkin across my lap. I gave them the recipe. I didn't give it to them hoping they'd fail. Why not? Leonard asked. Because then I'd still be making Christmas about what they needed from me. Esther's bracelet slid down her wrist as she reached for her glass. That's either very healthy or very inconvenient. I haven't decided. Denise changed the subject by asking Calvin whether his wife was joining us for dessert. He answered that Linda was still his wife legally, but had celebrated Christmas Eve with a tax accountant named Barry, so he did not expect her. Barry sends excellent cards, he added. The table loosened again. After we ate, I stood and began stacking plates. Denise took them from my hands. Guests don't clear. Guests with functioning arms do. Sit down, Ruth. I have been sitting down. And you survived. Esther looped her arm through mine and pulled me toward the living room. Let her fuss. She's been waiting 20 years to tell somebody what to do in a kitchen. Denise called after us. I tell people what to do all the time. People don't listen, Esther said. The living room tree was small and crooked, decorated with wooden birds. A framed photograph of Denise's husband, Paul, stood on the mantel wearing a red paper crown someone had balanced on the corner. I touched it. He'd have liked this. He'd have complained about the ham, Denise said from the kitchen. He complained as a love language, Calvin replied. Walter had done that too, though his complaints tended to arrive after he had eaten everything. The memory landed gently, without knocking the breath from me. I wondered if grief changed over time, or if a person simply grew more skilled at catching it. My phone buzzed again. This time I took it from my purse. There were 2 missed calls from Marcus, 1 voicemail and several messages. First, we fixed it, I think. Then, what temp do you bake at after you add broth? I had written the temperature in the recipe. At 1:20, Natalie had sent, Sorry to bother you, but Marcus says you aren't answering. Dressing is kind of mushy. At 1:48, never mind. At 2:15, Marcus had written, Hope you're having fun at Denise's. What time will you be home? I looked at the clock. It was almost 4. I typed, I'm not sure. Don't arrange your evening around me. His reply came before I put the phone down. We said we were coming. I wrote, You said probably 7 or 7:30. I told you I didn't know when I'd be home. 3 dots pulsed. Mom, seriously? I slipped the phone back into my purse. Esther watched me from the couch. Did the Republic survive without your guidance? Barely. Most things do. The 5 of us exchanged small gifts Denise had apparently bought in case nobody else thought to. She gave Leonard a bottle of hot sauce, Esther a candle, Calvin a packet of lottery tickets, and me a pair of thick green socks. I didn't know you were coming, she said, so those were supposed to be mine. I held them against my chest. I've never felt more chosen, you shouldn't. When dessert came, Calvin cut the pecan pie unevenly. Leonard objected on constitutional grounds. Esther sang the first line of O Holy Night before Denise told her she was off duty. Nothing remarkable happened. Nobody announced that I deserved better. Nobody raised a glass to my courage. They told stories, disagreed about an old movie, and debated whether Paul's paper crown made the mantle disrespectful. I was not the center of the meal or the secret worker beneath it. I was simply there. That should not have felt extraordinary. By 6:30, the rain had stopped. Denise packed ham into a plastic container for me despite my refusal and covered the remaining dressing in foil. Leave it here, she said. Leonard will finish it before midnight. Leonard did not deny this. I carried the blue dish home empty. My porch light was on, but there was no car in the driveway. Inside, the house felt colder than I had left it. I put the dish beside the sink and turned on the dining room lamp. The table was bare now except for the candlesticks. Beneath the tree, Marcus's sweater and Natalie's earrings remained wrapped in silver paper. At 7:10, I changed out of my dress. At 7:40, I made coffee. At 8, I told myself I wasn't waiting. My phone remained silent. I turned on the television and found a movie Walter used to watch every Christmas, even though he always fell asleep before the ending. I sat in his chair with Denise's green socks on my feet and the volume low enough to hear a car in the driveway. At 8:36, Marcus texted, "Dinner ran late. Everybody's still here. Can we come tomorrow morning?" I read the message twice. They had not left Natalie's family to visit me because dinner had run late. The same dinner I had been removed from to keep things simple had become too important to interrupt. I typed, "I have plans tomorrow." That wasn't true yet. He replied, "What plans?" I did not answer. At 9:15, I turned off the porch light. The instant the room went dark, my phone rang. I nearly picked it up. I imagined Marcus apologizing, telling me he had finally understood how the day looked from my side. I imagined him standing in his new kitchen after everyone left, staring at my roasting pan and realizing his mother had spent Christmas waiting. The call stopped. A photograph appeared instead. Marcus stood beside the dining table holding a casserole dish. Natalie leaned into him, smiling. Behind them, Darlene and the others raised their glasses toward the camera. The dressing looked pale and dense, but the table was crowded with food. "Not quite yours," Marcus had written, but everybody loved it. I enlarged the photograph before I could stop myself. The silver candlesticks on Natalie's table were mine. I had lent them to her for a dinner party in October. My roasting pan sat behind the ham. My serving spoon rested inside the dressing. Pieces of my house had made it to Christmas, only I had not. Another message arrived. "We saved you some." No one in the photograph looked as if anything was missing. I set the phone face down and carried the unopened gifts from beneath the tree to the hall closet. I placed them on the top shelf, shut the door, and stood with my hand on the knob. Then I called Camille. She answered on the fourth ring, sounding wary. "Mom?" "Merry Christmas," I said. A beat passed. "You already called me this morning." "I know. Is everything okay?" I looked toward the dark dining room. "No," I said. "But I'd like to ask you something, and I want the honest answer." "That sounds dangerous." "It may be." Camille was quiet now. I sat on the bottom stair. "When did I start making it so easy for Marcus to hurt people?" I asked. Camille did not answer for so long that I checked the screen to make sure the call had not dropped. Finally, she said, "Do you want the honest answer, or do you want me to help you feel better tonight?" I asked for the honest answer. You've asked for that before. The words stung because they were true. I had invited Camille's honesty and then corrected it until it resembled my own opinion. "I'll try not to argue," I said. She laughed once. "That doesn't sound like you. It doesn't feel like me either." "Then tell me what happened." I stayed on the bottom stair while I told her. I kept the story plain. Marcus's request, Natalie's sentence, the family dinner, the photograph. I did not mention the silver candlesticks or the serving spoon because I knew how small that would sound aloud. Camille did not interrupt until I described Marcus offering to bring me a plate afterward. "Oh, that's rich. I thought you were going to be objective." I can be objective and still recognize garbage. I leaned my head against the banister. I spent the afternoon at Denise's. Good. It was nice? Good. I kept expecting Marcus to come. I know. You don't know. Mom, you called me at 9:30 on Christmas night to ask when you taught Marcus he could hurt people. You were waiting. There was no use denying it. I heard water running on her end, then the clink of a glass. Camille said, "What made you ask me that?" I suppose I realized I've been letting things go. You don't let things go, you move them. What does that mean? You take whatever Marcus did and move it somewhere nobody has to look at it. He forgets to call, so you call him. He says something rude, so you explain what he meant. He skips dinner, so you pack him food. He works long hours. You said you wouldn't argue. I'm explaining. That's the problem. You always have an explanation for him. I pressed my lips together. Camille continued. Remember my 40th birthday? Of course. What do you remember? We had lunch at that place downtown, the one with the terrible parking. You left before dessert. Marcus needed... His garage keypad stopped working. He was locked out. He had a locksmith coming. Natalie was with him. He was 36 years old. I remembered driving across town while Camille's birthday cake sat untouched. Marcus had gotten into the house 10 minutes before I arrived. I stayed to make coffee because he was irritated. I came back, I said. After everybody left, I brought the cake. You brought half a cake in a box and told me not to be mad because he'd had a stressful afternoon. My hand tightened around the phone. Camille said, "When I moved into this house, you left halfway through unpacking because Marcus had the flu. He was very sick. He had a fever of 101. Natalie was home. You drove 2 hours to make him soup. Your boxes weren't going anywhere. Neither was his fever." I started to defend myself again, then stopped. The silence between us changed. Camille's voice softened, which somehow made the words harder. "You taught him that your plans are always provisional if he needs something. You taught him that a woman loving him means she absorbs the inconvenience." I didn't mean to. I know. Why didn't you tell me? I did. The hall clock ticked loudly behind me. "You called me jealous," she said. I closed my eyes. I remembered that conversation now. Not every word, but the shape of it. Camille had said the family bent around Marcus. I had accused her of keeping score. Walter had been gone less than a year, and Marcus's grief had been loud, while Camille's had made her distant. I responded to the grief I could see. "I'm sorry," I said. Camille breathed in, then released it slowly. "Don't apologize because you're hurt tonight. I'm not. You are. And when Marcus makes this right, I don't want you deciding the family is healed and I'm difficult again. He hasn't made anything right. He will eventually say something that sounds sad. You'll hear your baby boy in his voice, and the rules will disappear." "Camille." "What?" "He's not my baby boy. He's 39 and just asked his mother to troubleshoot stuffing for a dinner she wasn't invited to. It's dressing." She went quiet. Then we both began laughing. It came out of me in a strange burst, half a laugh and half something else. I covered my eyes with one hand. Camille said, "There she is. Your grandmother would have haunted me if I let you call it stuffing. I'm sure Grandma has better things to do. She does not." Our laughter faded. The hurt remained, but it had shifted enough to let us breathe around it. "I'm sorry about today," Camille said. "What they did was cruel. I don't think Natalie believes it was. That doesn't make it less cruel. She said I take over her kitchen. You do. Denise said the same thing. 2 witnesses. A pattern emerges. I would have stayed out if Natalie asked. Maybe. For 15 minutes. I almost objected, then remembered Denise's carving knife. Camille said, "You can be overbearing and still deserve a chair at Christmas. Both things can be true. That was not the clean verdict I wanted. It was better than that." I traced a nick in the stair rail with my thumb. "Why didn't you come home this year? You didn't invite me." "I assumed you had plans." "I did." "That's not the same thing." My stomach dropped. "I thought Marcus told you they were hosting." "He did. He said Natalie wanted to keep it to her side because the house was still chaotic. I figured you were going. He knew you thought that. I don't know. He let both of us assume. Marcus is very talented at letting people assume whatever saves him a conversation. A car passed outside, tires hissing on wet pavement. For a second, I imagined it turning into my driveway. It did not. "Who were you with today?" I asked. "Jessa and 2 friends from her building." "Did you have a nice time?" "Yes." "What did you eat?" "Mom." "I'm asking, not inspecting." "We made tacos. On Christmas, they were red and green." I smiled. "That sounds nice." "It was. I'd like to come see you." Another pause. "You don't have to," she said. "I know. Are you planning to bring food and reorganize my pantry?" "No." That hesitation was too long. "I might bring wine. I have wine. Then I'll bring myself." Camille went quiet again. I could hear a television murmuring in the background. "Call me tomorrow," she said. "I will. Not at 6 in the morning. I have never called you at 6. You called me at 6:12 on my birthday last year. That's practically noon. Good night, Mom." "Good night." After we hung up, I remained on the stair until my legs began to ache. A message from Marcus waited on my screen. "Guess you went to bed. Love you." I did not answer. I slept badly and woke to the sound of the doorbell. Sunlight cut through the bedroom blinds, bright enough to tell me it was later than I thought. The clock read 9:40. Whoever was downstairs rang again, then knocked in the pattern Marcus had used since he was a teenager. 3 quick taps, 2 slow ones. I pulled on my robe and went down. He stood on the porch holding a foil-covered paper plate and a gift bag. "You look tired," he said. "You look observant." He lifted the plate. "We brought you dinner." "We?" "Natalie's in the car." I looked past him. Her car idled at the curb, though there was room in the driveway. I could see her shape behind the windshield. "She didn't want to come in? She thought you might want to talk to me alone." "How considerate." Marcus glanced over his shoulder. "Can I come inside? It's cold." I stepped back. He entered and set the plate on the hall table as if presenting evidence. Grease had soaked through the foil near one edge. The gift bag contained a candle and a framed photograph of Marcus and Natalie from their anniversary trip. "Natalie picked the frame," he said. "It's lovely." I placed it beside the plate. He looked toward the living room. The tree was still lit, but the space beneath it was empty. "Where are our presents?" "In the closet. Why?" I put them away. His face registered genuine confusion. "Are you not giving them to us? I haven't decided." "Mom, seriously? You said that yesterday, because you were acting strange. I spent Christmas with friends. You ignored our calls when we needed help." I stared at him. He heard himself. I watched the realization arrive, but instead of apologizing, he pushed his hands into his coat pockets. That came out wrong. It came out clearly. We had a house full of people. Natalie was stressed. The dressing wasn't working. And I was supposed to leave my Christmas dinner to rescue yours? You could have answered one question. The temperature was in the recipe. We missed it. You also missed me. He looked away. We came by. The next morning. We told you dinner ran late. Yes, your guests were still there. He exhaled. What do you want me to say? I don't want to write that recipe for you, too. His mouth hardened. You're determined to make this as painful as possible. No, Marcus. Painful would have been sitting here in my green dress waiting for you. Fortunately, I had somewhere else to go. From the curb, a horn tapped once. Marcus glanced toward the window. Natalie's waiting, I said. She feels terrible. She's 10 yards away. She doesn't want another confrontation. Neither do I. He picked up the photograph and set it down again, squaring it with the edge of the table. So what happens now? That's an odd question. Are you coming Sunday? Every first Sunday, I made dinner. Marcus and Natalie arrived around 5, sometimes with wine, sometimes empty-handed. Camille came when she could. Other relatives drifted in depending on the month. I planned the menu, bought the food, and sent reminders. Sunday was 5 days away. No, I said. To your own house? There won't be dinner. He blinked. Because of Christmas. Because I don't feel like cooking. You always cook. I don't always feel like it. But people are expecting it. Then you should tell them plans changed. Why me? I looked at my son standing beside the plate of leftovers he had brought in, place of himself. Because I've been handling everything for a very long time, I said, and I'm curious what happens when I don't. Marcus gave me a long, searching look, as though there had to be some trick hidden inside my sentence. You're canceling Sunday dinner to teach us a lesson. I'm canceling because I don't want to host. That's the same thing. No, a lesson would come with instructions. The horn sounded again, longer this time. He picked up the foil-covered plate from the hall table. Do you want this or not? I looked at the grease spreading beneath the foil. What's on it? Ham, potatoes, dressing. Your dressing? Yes, the one everybody loved. His face tightened. Forget it. He turned toward the door with the plate. Leave the photograph, I said. He stopped. I like the frame. He set the picture back down without looking at me, then opened the door. Natalie's car was already backing away from the curb by the time he reached it. He had to trot down the walk carrying the plate like a waiter late for a table. I watched from behind the curtain as he climbed into the passenger seat. Natalie said something before he even closed the door. Marcus answered with both hands moving, one still clutching the plate. For years, I had assumed his gestures meant he was defending me. Now I wondered if he had been explaining me. The car pulled away. I took the framed photograph into the living room. Marcus and Natalie stood on a beach at sunset, their arms around each other, both smiling into the wind. They were a handsome couple. Happy, too, much of the time. I did not need Natalie to be monstrous in order to be wounded by her. That would have been simpler. I placed the photograph on the mantel beside one of Walter. In his picture, he was laughing at something outside the frame. Then I called Camille as promised. She answered with, "It's not 6 a.m. I'm impressed. It's after 10. Personal growth." I was thinking I might drive up Sunday. This Sunday? Yes. What about dinner? There isn't one. A silence followed. Did Marcus cancel? She asked. I did. You canceled first Sunday dinner? I'm allowed. I didn't say you weren't. You sounded surprised. Mom, the sun is allowed to rise in the west. I'd still look out the window. I sat in Walter's chair and pulled Denise's green socks higher on my ankles. Would you like me to come or not? I would. Good. What are you bringing? Myself. No casserole? No. Cake? No. Emergency soup in the trunk? Camille. I'm testing the perimeter. I may bring wine. I told you I have wine. Then I'll come empty-handed. She laughed softly. I'll believe it when I see it. By Friday afternoon, the family group message began. Marcus wrote that Sunday dinner at my house was canceled because I needed some space after the holidays. The phrase made me sound like a skittish dog that had crawled under the bed. My younger sister, Elaine, responded first. Everything okay? Marcus replied before I could. Just a misunderstanding. Mom's upset. I watched the words appear on my screen. He had been unable to tell me I was uninvited for weeks, but he could summarize my feelings for 9 people in under a minute. I typed, "Dinner is canceled because I don't want to host this month. Please make whatever plans suit you." Elaine sent me a private message immediately. What happened? I considered saying nothing. That would have protected Marcus, preserved Natalie's dignity, and guaranteed that everyone interpreted my boundary as another emotional weather system requiring patience. I wrote, Marcus and Natalie excluded me from Christmas dinner, but asked for my dressing recipe. I'm not interested in cooking for them this weekend. The phone rang before I could put it down. Elaine did not bother with hello. They did what? They hosted Natalie's family and told me they were keeping it to immediate family. But you're his mother. I have verified that, and he let that happen? He asked for the recipe. Elaine made a sound I had not heard since we were girls, and she found a slug inside her shoe. Ruth, I don't need you to call him. I wasn't going to call him. You were thinking about it. I was thinking about driving over there and asking whether he misplaced his mind in the new kitchen. Please don't. So you're just canceling every family dinner now? I canceled one. People count on those dinners. I know. You enjoy them. Usually. Then aren't you letting Natalie take something else from you? It was a fair question, which made it irritating. I looked toward my dining room. The bare table remained extended because I had not yet pushed the leaves back together. Maybe I've been treating enjoyment as an obligation. Elaine went quiet. I knew her well enough to hear the next thought before she said it. Are we supposed to choose sides? No. Because if Marcus invites everybody over, go. You wouldn't mind? I would have feelings. Those are not the same as instructions. That sounds suspiciously mature. I spent Christmas with Denise. She's a bad influence. Elaine chuckled, then sighed. I'm sorry, Ruth. Thank you. Do you want to come here Sunday? I'm visiting Camille. Another pause. Different this time. That's good, she said carefully. Why does everyone sound as though I've announced I'm taking up mountain climbing? Because you don't visit Camille without a holiday or a project. I have visited her for a purpose. I am beginning to dislike honest people. You raised one. Elaine promised not to interfere, which meant she would only discuss the situation with her husband and possibly 3 close friends. For my family, that qualified as restraint. Marcus invited everyone to his house the next morning. Nothing formal, he wrote in the group message. Pizza and football, since Mom canceled. That last sentence sat there like a thumb pointing in my direction. His Uncle Wayne said he had plans. Elaine said she and George had already agreed to visit friends. 2 cousins offered vague apologies. Natalie's mother responded with a thumbs up before apparently realizing she was in the wrong family thread and deleting it. Marcus messaged me privately. Happy now? I typed. I hope you have a nice Sunday. That response took considerable discipline and gave me no satisfaction whatsoever. Sunday morning, I stood in my kitchen staring at a lemon cake. I had baked it Saturday evening without admitting why. The glaze had set perfectly. It sat beneath the glass dome on my counter, bright and fragrant and impossible to pretend was accidental. Denise came through the back door without knocking. I had given her a key after Walter died, and she treated it as a constitutional right. She looked at the cake, then at me. You relapsed. I had lemons. Tragic. I could take half. You could take none. That seems wasteful. I'll make the sacrifice. She lifted the glass dome. I slapped her hand away. You're not cutting it before I decide. You already decided. You put on lipstick to drive 2 hours. I always wear lipstick. You wore pajama pants to the pharmacy last Tuesday. I was ill. You were buying cotton balls. I found an empty cardboard box and lowered the entire cake into it. Denise folded her arms. It's not for Camille, I said. It's for you. Her suspicion became delight. That's the healthiest thing you've ever done. Don't make me take it back. She kissed my cheek, left a red smear near my ear, and departed with the cake. I stood in the quiet kitchen, feeling strangely exposed without something in my hands. The drive to Camille's took a little over 2 hours. I resisted calling to ask if she needed groceries. I resisted stopping at a roadside market for flowers. When I pulled into her driveway, I checked the back seat as if a casserole might have materialized there through habit. Camille opened the door before I knocked. She wore jeans and a gray sweater, her dark hair twisted up with a pencil. She looked past me toward the car. You really didn't bring anything. I brought a full tank of gas. You can't serve that. I'm told not everything has to be served. She stepped aside. Come in, before you become enlightened on the porch. Her house was warm and lived in. A pair of boots lay on their sides near the door. Books were stacked beneath the coffee table, and 3 framed photographs leaned against the wall instead of hanging on it. I recognized one from Walter's last healthy Christmas. He and Camille stood in my kitchen, flour on both their shirts, laughing over a pie crust that had torn in half. I didn't know you had that picture, I said. You gave it to me. I did? After Dad died? I picked up the frame. I don't remember. You were giving things away pretty fast then. The comment carried no accusation on its surface. That did not mean there wasn't one beneath. Camille took my coat. Do you want coffee? Yes. Sit. I can make it. I wasn't going to. You were halfway to the kitchen. I sat on the sofa. She brought 2 mugs and placed mine on the table without asking how I took it. It had cream and 1 spoonful of sugar. Exactly right. That unsettled me. You remember, I said. Camille curled one leg beneath her in the chair across from me. Some of us pay attention. I looked at the photograph in my lap. Was I terrible after your father died? No. Be honest. You were grieving. So were you. Yes. I waited. Camille wrapped both hands around her mug. Marcus called every day. You called him brave for talking about Dad. I couldn't talk, so you kept giving me space. I thought that was what you wanted. It was until it wasn't. Why didn't you ask me to come? She smiled sadly. Why didn't you ask me if I wanted you to? I looked down at Walter's laughing face. There were no villains in that room, just two women who had loved the same man and expected the other to understand the shape of an absence neither could name. I should have asked, I said. Yes. I'm sorry. Camille studied me, as though deciding whether I meant it or merely wanted the subject closed. Then my phone buzzed. Marcus had sent a photograph to the family group. His new dining table was set with paper plates and 3 pizza boxes. Only Natalie and Darlene sat beside him. Wish everybody could have made it, he wrote. A private message followed. This is what you wanted, right? I turned the phone face down. Camille watched me do it. What did he say? Nothing that needs an answer? For once, I meant it. Camille lifted her mug. That's new. What is? You not answering him. I don't answer every message. She gave me a look. I don't. Mom, you once replied to a thumbs up because you thought Marcus might interpret silence as disapproval. That thumbs up was ambiguous. It was a thumb. I smiled despite myself and picked up my coffee. Camille nodded toward the phone. He wants you to feel guilty. He feels rejected. So did you. That doesn't mean I have to return the favor. No. It means you don't have to rescue him from the feeling. I let that sit between us. From the kitchen came the low hum of the refrigerator. Somewhere upstairs, a faucet dripped. My instinct was to ask whether Camille had called a plumber. Instead, I looked again at the photographs leaning against the wall. Why haven't you hung those? I haven't decided where I want them. You've lived here 3 years, and they've remained safe that entire time. I could help. There she is. I said help, not take over. You're already looking for a level. I keep one in the car. Camille laughed, and I felt a small rush of relief. I had missed making her laugh, or maybe I had forgotten how often I used to. She brought out a shoebox of photographs after lunch. We sat on the living room floor, sorting through pictures Walter had taken badly. Heads cut off, fingers in corners, too much sky. In one, Camille was 27 and standing beside a lopsided Christmas tree. Marcus, 23, was behind her making a face. You two argued that whole night, I said. He borrowed my car without asking. He needed to pick up Natalie. He had a car. It was making a noise. It had a squeaky belt. He was worried. He was never worried enough to ask permission. I placed the picture in a pile. I told you to let it go. You told me he was in love. He was. As an explanation for grand theft sedan, you got the car back, with no gas. I winced. Did he at least apologize? Camille stared at me. That means no. That means you made me apologize for embarrassing him in front of Natalie. I tried to reach for the memory and found only pieces. Walter asking everyone to calm down, Marcus sulking in the den, Camille crying in the downstairs bathroom, me telling her that Natalie was new to the family and first impressions mattered. I don't remember saying that, I admitted. I do. I'm sorry. Camille put the photograph down. You can't apologize for 30 years in one afternoon, I know. And I don't want you going home and making a list. I wasn't going to. You make lists when feelings become inconvenient. I make lists because things need doing. Some things need sitting with. I leaned back against the sofa. She looked so much like Walter when she was serious. Not in her features, exactly. It was the stillness. Walter could sit with an uncomfortable truth until everyone else stopped trying to escape it. Marcus and I both filled silence with explanations. Camille waited. I don't want to make you my consolation prize, I said. Her expression shifted. I came because of what Marcus did, I continued. I know that, but I don't want every call from me to be evidence that I'm angry with him. Good. I'd like to know you again. You know me. I know how you take your coffee. Apparently you know how I take mine. That's a start. What do you want from me? Camille rubbed her thumb over the edge of a photograph. I don't want to become the good child because Marcus disappointed you. You're not a child. You know what I mean. I do. I don't want you comparing us. I don't want points for showing up, and I don't want him losing points because he doesn't. I had enough of that system when I was the one losing. The honesty hurt without feeling cruel. All right, I said, and don't start calling every night. I would never. Twice a week is plenty. I wasn't planning twice a week. Good. Thursdays and Sundays work. I laughed. You're assigning me days? I'm setting reasonable expectations. You sound like an insurance company. Do we have an agreement? I held out my hand. Thursdays and Sundays. She shook it. Before I left, we hung one photograph. Camille chose the picture of herself and Walter with the ruined pie crust. I found the level in my trunk, but I let her drive the nail. It went in slightly crooked. I opened my mouth. She turned slowly toward me, hammer in hand. It's perfect, I said. The frame tilted a fraction to the left. On the drive home, I thought about that crooked picture more than I thought about Marcus's message. It seemed like progress until I realized I had checked my phone at every red light. My roasting pan sat on the porch when I pulled into the driveway. Inside it were the silver candlesticks, the serving spoon, and a folded dish towel I did not recognize. Everything had been washed. The pan was still damp around the handles. There was no note. I carried the stack into the kitchen, piece by piece. Marcus must have come while I was at Camille's. He still had a key, but he had left the pan outside as though returning something to a neighbor he didn't want to see. At the bottom of the pan, beneath the towel, I found the Christmas card I had sent him. My handwriting ran across the envelope. Marcus and Natalie, with all our love. They had opened the card. The envelope was empty. I did not know whether Marcus had put it in the pan deliberately or whether it had been caught among the borrowed things. I stood there long enough to make either explanation feel possible. Then I threw the envelope away. The following Thursday, I called Camille at 7. She answered, "Look at you, honoring the treaty." I almost called it 6:50. That would have been aggression. We spoke for 20 minutes about nothing important. Her faucet was still dripping, and she had already called someone. I did not offer to supervise. Sunday came without dinner at my house, then another. I shortened the dining table, put away the extra chairs, and discovered that an ordinary weekend contained a surprising number of hours. Denise convinced me to attend a movie I would not have chosen. Elaine invited me to lunch and did not ask me to bring dessert, though she stared at the restaurant cake as if personally betrayed by it. Marcus did not call. He occasionally responded in the family message. He sent a photograph of a steak he had grilled and told his uncle Wayne they should get together. He liked one of my comments beneath a picture Elaine posted. His silence toward me had the shape of a test. By the first Sunday in February, several relatives had begun asking whether dinner would resume. I sent one message to the group. I'm taking a break from hosting monthly dinners. I'll invite everyone when I'm ready. Elaine replied with a heart. Wayne wrote, understood. One cousin asked if everything was all right, then deleted the question. Marcus called less than a minute later. I let it ring twice before answering. You canceled all of them? He asked. I said I'm taking a break. For how long? I don't know. We've had those dinners for years. I'm aware. So this is still about Christmas. This is about me not wanting to plan, shop for, cook, serve, and clean up after 9 adults every month. We help clean. You carry plates into the kitchen. I do more than that. You sometimes take out the trash. Why are you keeping a ledger now? I'm not. You asked. He exhaled. I pictured him walking through his new kitchen with the phone against his ear, opening cabinets without seeing what was inside. Everybody thinks we did something horrible, he said. I told Elaine what happened because she asked me directly. I haven't discussed it with anyone else. Camille knows. I called Camille. Of course you did. The contempt in his voice startled me. What does that mean? She's loving this. No, Marcus. She is not. She's always wanted you to be mad at me. Camille has wanted me to notice when I hurt her. What does that have to do with anything? A great deal, apparently. He went quiet. I could feel him reorganizing the conversation, looking for a version in which my pain was really Camille's manipulation. Did she tell you to cancel the dinners? He asked. No. Did Denise? No. Then what do you want? I want you to stop assuming every choice I make requires someone else's influence. I'm trying to understand. You could begin with what I've told you. All you've told me is that you're not cooking anymore. That is the part that seems to concern you. He gave a short laugh. You know what? Fine. Take your break. I intend to. He hung up without saying goodbye. I placed the phone on the counter and felt my hands begin to shake. Boundaries sounded calm when people described them afterward. In the moment, they felt like standing outside during a storm insisting the roof had needed repair. Denise came in through the back door carrying an empty cake box. You ate the whole thing? I had help. From whom? That is protected information. She put the box on the counter, saw my face, and stopped. Marcus? Yes. Do we hate him today? No. Good. I don't have the energy. She made coffee while I sat at the table. I told her about the call. She listened without interrupting, which was so unlike her that I began to suspect she was ill. When I finished, she said, "He thinks you'll get tired." Of what? Being angry? Being lonely? Making your own plans? Whatever story he's using. I am tired, I know. I miss him. I know that, too. The simple admission broke something open. I covered my mouth and looked toward the window until the tears passed. Denise placed a mug in front of me. Missing somebody is not an instruction. That sounds like Esther. I stole it from a greeting card. 2 weeks later, Marcus called on a Tuesday evening. His tone was careful, almost cheerful. Hey, Mom, you busy? I'm reading. Oh, okay. He sounded surprised, as if reading did not qualify. What do you need? I asked. My birthday's coming up. I remember when it is. I know. I just thought maybe we could do the usual dinner. Nothing big. Natalie and me, you, whoever else wants to come. The usual dinner meant pot roast, potatoes whipped with sour cream, green beans with almonds, and chocolate cake with the frosting he had requested every year since he was 12. It meant 2 days of work presented as if it had appeared because he was loved. You're turning 40, I said. Don't remind me. Camille turned 40 3 years ago. What does that have to do with my birthday? More than I realized at the time. He hesitated. So, is that a yes? I looked at the calendar hanging beside the refrigerator. His birthday was circled in my handwriting, as it had been every year of his life. No, I said, it isn't. For several seconds, the line was so quiet I thought he had hung up. You're not doing anything for my birthday? Marcus asked. I didn't say that. You said no. I said, I'm not making the usual dinner. What's the difference? We could go to a restaurant. My treat. I don't want to sit in some restaurant on my 40th birthday, then choose somewhere you'd enjoy. That's not the point. I waited. He said, it's a family tradition. So was inviting your mother to Christmas. The words came out before I decided to say them. Marcus breathed sharply through his nose. There it is. Yes, I said. There it is. You've been waiting to use that. I haven't had to wait very long. This is unbelievable. What part? You're refusing to celebrate my birthday because Natalie wanted one holiday at our house. I offered to take you to dinner. That's not what we do. No. What we do is I ask what meal you want, spend 2 days making it, invite everybody, clean the house, buy the cake ingredients, and tell you not to lift a finger because it's your birthday. You make it sound like forced labor. I used to enjoy it. Used to? I'm trying to figure that out. He gave a low, bitter laugh. So now you're questioning every nice thing you've ever done for me? No. I'm questioning why the nice things became requirements. I didn't require anything. I asked, and I answered. Right. No. Yes. I heard a door close on his end. His voice dropped. You'd do it for Camille. The accusation was so perfectly backward that I almost laughed. On Camille's 40th birthday, I left before her cake was served because your garage keypad stopped working. What? I drove across town to rescue you from a problem you had already solved. I don't even remember that. She does. This is coming from her. The memory came from her. The choice was mine. Mom, Camille keeps a list of every bad thing I've ever done. No, I think she remembers the things the rest of us asked her to forget. He went silent again. I rubbed my forehead. This was not how I wanted to speak to him. I did not want every conversation to become an excavation. I wanted him to tell me something funny that happened at work, or ask if I had watched the movie he recommended, or stop by without needing a pan. I don't want to fight, I said. Then make the dinner. The simplicity of his answer settled something in me. No. He hung up. Natalie called 6 minutes later. I watched her name appear and considered letting it ring. Then I answered because I was tired of conversations being conducted through Marcus. Hi, Natalie. He's really upset. I know. It's his 40th birthday. I know how old my son is. Then why are you doing this now? I offered to take him out. He doesn't want to go out. He wants the dinner you always make. I don't want to make it. She exhaled loudly. This is punishment. Not getting everything you expect is not always punishment. You're angry with me, so you're withholding something from him. He is involved in why I'm angry. I made the comment, and he made the choice. What choice? To support his wife? There it was again, polished smooth by repetition. Did you ask him to exclude me? I told him what I wanted, and he gave it to you. You say that like I manipulated him. I'm saying he is an adult who made a decision. You're his mother. You're supposed to understand that his marriage comes first. Coming first does not require everybody else to come nowhere. Natalie was quiet. I continued, if Marcus wanted me at Christmas, he could have said so. If he did not want me there, he could have told me weeks earlier. Instead, he waited until he needed my recipe. That part belongs to him. You think I don't know he avoided it? Then stop calling me to clean up the result. She inhaled sharply. Fine. Fine. The call ended. I stood alone in my kitchen, feeling as if I had won something I did not want. Marcus eventually chose Bellini's, an Italian restaurant near his house with red leather booths and framed photographs of people none of us recognized. He announced the time in the family group message and added, "No gifts necessary," in the tone of someone certain there would be gifts. I bought one anyway. The charcoal sweater intended for Christmas remained on the top shelf of the hall closet. I took it down, removed the silver holiday paper, and wrapped it in blue. Natalie's earrings stayed where they were. Camille drove down for the dinner. When she arrived at my house, she held up both hands. I brought nothing. You're very proud of that. I almost brought wine. I have wine. I know. I'm learning. We arrived at Bellini's together. Marcus noticed. His expression changed for only a second, but Camille saw it too. Happy birthday, she said, hugging him. Thanks. Didn't know you were coming. You invited the family. Yeah, I just know it's a drive. I've made it before. Natalie stood beside him wearing a dark red dress. She kissed my cheek without touching the rest of me. Ruth, you look lovely. Thank you. Her eyes moved toward my hands, perhaps checking for a cake. The restaurant had pushed 2 tables together. Elaine and George were already seated, along with Wayne and Leonard Price, who had somehow been invited after meeting Marcus once at a hardware store. Denise claimed she had no idea how that happened. Leonard shook Marcus's hand. Your mother's dressing was better. I closed my eyes. Marcus frowned. Better than what? Christmas. I never had yours. No, that's what I mean. Elaine coughed into her napkin. I sat between Camille and Wayne and opened the menu as if it contained instructions for surviving the evening. Dinner was not a disaster. That might have made things easier. Marcus laughed at Wayne's story about a broken lawnmower. Natalie ordered a bottle of wine for the table. Camille asked Marcus about the shelves he had built in the new house, and he showed her photographs on his phone. For stretches of time, we resembled a family enjoying a birthday. Then the food arrived, and every small habit shifted. People asked me what they should order only after they had ordered it. Nobody needed me to pass a bowl or check whether the potatoes were hot. I ate while my meal was still warm. Marcus kept looking at me as if my freedom were an accusation. After the plates were cleared, the waiter brought out a round chocolate cake with Happy 40th Marcus, written in white icing. Marcus looked surprised. Natalie said quickly, "It's from the bakery on Oak Street. They do nice work," I said. The frosting was glossy and smooth, decorated with strawberries. It looked nothing like mine. "Mom usually makes the cake," Marcus told Leonard. "I gathered there was a labor dispute," Leonard said. "Leonard," I warned. "What? I support management in this case. You don't know which side is management, the one who owns the mixing bowls." Camille laughed into her water glass. Even Marcus smiled reluctantly. Natalie did not. The waiter cut the cake into narrow wedges. It tasted fine, lighter than mine, with raspberry filling Marcus would never have requested. He ate every bite. When the bill came, Marcus reached for it. "I've got this." "It's your birthday," I said. "You offered to take me out." I did. He hesitated, then let me pay for the meal. Natalie watched the exchange with a pinched expression. I wondered if accepting my invitation after accusing me of withholding care made him uncomfortable. Good, an unkind part of me thought. The kindness in me paid the bill anyway. Outside, the air was cold and dry. Elaine and George left first. Wayne shook Marcus's hand again. Leonard took a piece of cake home in a foil pouch the restaurant provided. Camille hugged me beside her car. "You okay?" she asked. "I'm fine. That answer has never meant anything. I'm tired. That I believe." She glanced across the parking lot. Marcus stood beside Natalie's car watching us. "Do you want me to stay?" Camille asked. "No. Drive carefully." She squeezed my hand and left. I was unlocking my car when Marcus approached. "You and Camille are close now. We're trying." That was fast. "No, Marcus. It was late." He put his hands into the pockets of his coat. He wore the navy one again, the coat I had given him. "Thanks for dinner." "You're welcome." "And the sweater." "You're welcome." He looked toward Natalie, who was sitting inside their car. "You made your point. I had dinner with my son on his birthday, with a store-bought cake. I didn't buy the cake. You know what I mean." I closed my car door without getting in. "No, I honestly don't. You wanted everybody to see that you're done doing things for me. I didn't discuss Christmas with anyone at that table. You didn't have to. They all know. Because it happened. Because you told them." I told Elaine and Camille. Denise was there on Christmas. Leonard found out at her dinner because he asked why I was there. So now I'm the son who abandoned his mother. I have never used those words. You didn't need to. Natalie tapped the horn once. Marcus ignored it. He stepped closer. "Do you know how humiliating it is to have everybody looking at me like that?" "Yes." The answer stopped him. I said, "I know exactly how it feels to realize everyone in a room understands you were not wanted somewhere." His jaw tightened. "We wanted you, just not that day." That sentence is not as generous as you think. You're dragging this out over one day. One awkward comment Natalie made. "No. I'm still hurt by what you did after the comment. I called you. I came by. I invited everybody for Sunday. You called for cooking instructions. You brought me leftovers the next morning. Then you blame me when people made other plans. What else was I supposed to do? Apologize. I said I was sorry it was awkward. You were sorry the conversation was uncomfortable. What's the difference? The difference is whether you regret hurting me or only regret that I reacted." Natalie got out of the car. "Marcus," she called. "Let's go." He turned toward her. 1 minute. "No. This is what she wants. She wants you standing in a parking lot begging." "I don't want him to beg," I said. Natalie folded her arms against the cold. "Then what do you want, Ruth?" The honest answer was so simple it embarrassed me. I want him to understand why it hurt. "I understand," Marcus said. "You were left out." "No, you left me out." He looked as if I had struck him. Natalie started toward us, but Marcus raised one hand. He was not defending me. He was stopping her because he needed the space to be angry. "You act like I chose to hurt you. You chose the person you thought would forgive you. She is my wife, and I am your mother. This was not a contest until you decided one of us had to disappear." I was trying to keep peace in my marriage. At my expense. He looked away. I said, quieter now, "You knew I would be hurt. You told me so. You did it anyway because disappointing me felt safer." His face closed. "That's what this is about," I continued. "Not dressing, not cake. You counted on my love to make me the easiest person to wound." Natalie stared at him. For one moment, I thought he might answer honestly. Instead, he said, "Maybe you don't love me as much as you think you do." Then he turned and walked away. I stood beside my car while Natalie followed him. She looked back once before getting in, but I could not read her expression. Their taillights disappeared beyond the restaurant sign. I drove home with Marcus's last sentence sitting beside me like a passenger. It was cruel, and it was childish, and some old reflex still tried to prove it wrong. When I reached my house, the porch was dark. Denise had left a small paper bag hanging from the doorknob. Inside was one slice of my lemon cake and a note. "Missing him is still not an instruction." I ate the cake standing at the kitchen counter. Then I took the calendar from beside the refrigerator, found every date I had circled for Marcus, and almost tore out the page. Almost. Instead, I put the calendar back. A boundary was not the same thing as erasing him. I was beginning to understand that holding one could hurt more. The next morning, I sent Marcus one message. "I love you. What I said last night remains true." He did not answer. By Thursday, I had rewritten the message in my head so many times that every word sounded wrong, too cold, too needy, too final. When Camille called, I told her what Marcus had said in the parking lot. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Do you need me to say he's an ass, or do you already know?" "I know. I can still say it." "Don't. That's growth for both of us." I smiled, but my eyes burned. "I almost called him," I admitted. "To apologize? To explain?" "Which part?" "That I do love him. He knows," he said. "He wanted you to prove your love by giving up your boundary. That doesn't mean he doubts it." The certainty in her voice comforted me, then worried me. "I don't want you becoming my interpreter for Marcus," I said. "Excuse me? I used to explain him to you. I don't want to reverse it." Camille let out a slow breath. "Fair. And I don't want us spending every Thursday talking about him." "Excellent. My faucet is fixed." We discussed the faucet for an unreasonable amount of time. The weeks that followed were less dramatic than the first ones. That made them harder in a different way. Anger could fill an evening. Silence settled into the furniture. Marcus did not call. He responded when I sent a brief message about his Uncle Wayne's back surgery, but only with thanks. He did not stop by. His key remained on my hook in the kitchen, figuratively speaking. The actual key was still in his pocket. I considered asking for it back, then decided that would turn distance into ceremony. Sunday dinners did not resume. Instead, people made separate plans. Elaine invited Wayne and his wife to lunch. Camille came to my house one weekend and stayed at a hotel because she said she wanted to visit without being folded into the guest room like a fitted sheet. Denise hosted another meal and let me bring bread, but not the main dish. No one starved. The family did not collapse. It simply stopped moving in one coordinated direction. Elaine invited everyone to her house for Easter. Her message included 3 exclamation points and a schedule precise enough for a military landing. She assigned dishes. I received salad. I called her immediately. "Salad? You said you didn't want to carry the whole meal. I didn't say I'd forgotten how to cook. You make a very good salad. Lettuce is not cooking. Then this should be restful. What did you assign Marcus? Wine. He can purchase his contribution. So can you." I considered making homemade dressing, candied pecans, and croutons. Elaine added, "A bagged salad is acceptable." That is hateful. I learned from the best. I brought a bowl with mixed greens, sliced pears, goat cheese, and pecans. The dressing was homemade, but I did not mention that. Elaine met me at the door and took the bowl before I could carry it into the kitchen. "You may sit in the living room," she said. "I know where your kitchen is." That's what frightens me. George called from the dining room. She labeled the cabinets, Ruth, She did not. I used removable tape, Elaine said, because some people struggle with boundaries. I laughed and let her take my coat. Marcus and Natalie arrived 20 minutes late with 3 bottles of wine. He hugged Elaine, shook George's hand, and greeted me with a kiss that landed near my temple. "Hi, Mom." "Hello, Marcus." Natalie hugged me more fully, though her body was stiff. "Your salad looks beautiful, thank you." She glanced toward the kitchen. "Do you need help with anything? It isn't my kitchen." "I know. I just meant, I'm sure Elaine can direct us." We both smiled too quickly. Dinner was crowded and imperfect. George overcooked the ham. Wayne's wife brought potatoes that cooled before we sat down. Elaine forgot the rolls until halfway through the meal, then blamed the labels on her cabinets. Nobody looked at me to fix anything. I had to stop myself twice from rising. The first time, Elaine needed a serving spoon. The second, the gravy boat was empty. Each problem resolved without me. Marcus sat across the table. He noticed. When dessert appeared, 3 different pies because nobody had coordinated, he said, "No lemon cake?" The table went quiet enough for the question to sound crueler than he had probably intended. "I wasn't assigned dessert," I said. Elaine began cutting pie. My house, my menu. Marcus looked down at his plate. I was joking. "I know," I said. Natalie studied him with an expression I could not read. After dinner, I carried my plate into the kitchen with everyone else. Elaine allowed me to rinse dishes but slapped my hand when I reached for a towel. "You're a guest," she said. "I'm your sister. Today you're both." Across the room, Marcus was telling Wayne about a contractor who had installed the wrong cabinet doors. He looked relaxed until he caught me watching him. For a second, I saw my son without the argument between us. Then his face changed, and mine probably did too. I left before he did. Natalie came to my house the following Saturday. She knocked a little after 2, while I was sorting winter clothes for donation. When I opened the door, she stood alone, holding her purse with both hands. "Is Marcus with you?" I asked. "No. Does he know you're here?" "Yes." That answer sounded prepared. I stepped aside. "Would you like coffee? Please." She followed me to the kitchen but did not sit until I did. I poured coffee into 2 mugs, remembered she took hers black, and set it in front of her. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Natalie looked around the room. Her gaze lingered on Walter's skillet, hanging from a hook beside the stove. "I owe you an apology," she said. I waited. She rubbed one thumb along the handle of her mug. "I shouldn't have said what I said." "You shouldn't have said it where I could hear." "No, I shouldn't have said it." I nodded. "And I shouldn't have excluded you from Christmas." The sentence seemed to cost her something. I could respect the cost without making it easier. "Why did you?" I asked. She looked toward the window. "I wanted one holiday that felt like mine. Your family was there." "That's not what I mean." "Then explain it." She sat back. "Every time we hosted before, you came early. You brought half the meal even when I asked you to bring one thing. If something went wrong, you fixed it before I could decide whether it was actually wrong. I thought of the rolls, the oven temperature, the place settings. I did that," I said, "and everybody loved you for it." My mother would say, "Thank goodness Ruth thought of that," or Marcus would tell people, "Mom saved us." I wasn't competing with you, I know. Did you know then? She hesitated. "Not always." I let the answer stand. Natalie continued, "The new house mattered to me. I wanted to prove I could have everyone there and make it feel like Christmas without you directing it. So you used my recipe." Her face flushed. "Yes." "Why?" "Because Marcus wanted the dressing." "That's his answer." She looked down at her coffee. I said, "What was yours?" Natalie was silent long enough that I thought she might leave. Then she said, "Because I wanted it to taste like Christmas." The honesty struck deeper than an excuse would have. She continued before I could respond. "I wanted what you made people feel. I just didn't want to feel like you were the reason they felt it." Outside, a truck moved slowly down the street. The sound faded. "You could have asked me to arrive at dinner," I said. You could have told me not to bring anything. I thought you would bring something anyway. I might have. You would have. I might have needed reminding." A small smile appeared on her face and vanished. "I told Marcus weeks ahead," she said. "I said I only wanted my side because they hadn't all been together in years. He told me he would talk to you. He didn't." "I know." "Did you ask whether he had?" "Twice. He said you understood. That hurt in a new place." "What did he tell you I understood?" "That we were keeping it small, that we'd celebrate with you later. And you believed I agreed?" "I wanted to." There it was again. Not malice, but convenience. People believed whatever allowed them to proceed. Natalie turned the mug between her palms. "On Christmas morning, when you didn't answer, I thought you were trying to ruin the meal. I was at Denise's. I know that now. You knew it then. Marcus told you. I thought you were making a point by ignoring us. I was eating." She looked embarrassed. "I kept saying you were punishing us," she continued. "Then I saw you at Elaine's." "What changed?" "You didn't make anyone choose. You didn't tell people not to talk to us. You didn't take over her kitchen. You brought a salad. That last part remains difficult." Natalie almost laughed. Then her eyes filled, not enough for tears to fall, but enough to alter her voice. "I did know it would hurt you," she said. "Maybe not how much, but I knew. I told myself Marcus would handle it because you always forgive him." I looked at her sharply. "He told me what you said in the parking lot," she added, "about being the safest person to hurt." "What did he say about it?" "That you were trying to make him feel guilty." "And what did you say?" "That maybe he should." I sat very still. Natalie looked directly at me now. "I am sorry I excluded you. I'm sorry I asked for your recipe after taking away your place at the meal. And I'm sorry I treated your hurt like an attack, because that was easier than admitting I caused it. The apology was not perfect. It did not erase Christmas, and it did not make me trust her. But it contained no if." "Thank you," I said. "Do you forgive me?" "I believe you mean what you said. That isn't an answer. It's the answer I have today." She nodded, disappointed but not offended. We sat with our coffee cooling between us. Finally, Natalie asked, "What do I do about Marcus? You're asking the wrong woman. He won't talk about it anymore." "That sounds like Marcus. He misses you. I miss him. Then why can't one of you just call?" I looked at her over the rim of my mug. "Because I called him for 39 years. She closed her eyes briefly. When she left, she paused in the foyer beside the framed anniversary photograph. "You kept it," she said. "It was a gift." Her gaze moved toward the hall closet. She could not know her Christmas earrings were still on the top shelf. I opened the door for her. On the porch, she turned back. "He thinks if he apologizes now, you'll believe I made him." "Did you?" "I told him he owes you one. Then he may be right." Natalie winced. "But that doesn't mean the apology is impossible," I said. "It means he'll have to know why he's giving it." She nodded and walked to her car. I watched her drive away, then returned to the kitchen. Her coffee sat untouched after the first few sips. Beside it, on the table, she had left nothing for me to fix. I washed Natalie's mug, dried it, and put it back in the cabinet. Then I took the earrings from the hall closet. They were still wrapped in silver paper. The tape loosened where I had almost opened the package myself. I carried them to the kitchen and set them on the table. I could mail them. I could save them for her birthday. I could give them to Denise, who would wear gold earrings while cleaning gutters and dare anyone to object. Instead, I returned them to the closet in a plain gift bag. Accepting an apology did not require pretending Christmas had happened differently. Denise arrived an hour later with a bag of winter clothes to add to my donation pile. "You missed her," I said. "Who?" "Natalie." Denise stopped halfway through the door. "Here?" She came to apologize. "Did she?" "Yes." "Properly?" "I didn't score it." "So a 7. I took the bag from her. It was a good apology." "What does Marcus say?" "She didn't bring him." "Smart woman. I'm not recruiting her. I didn't say you were. You were about to." "I was about to ask if she brought cake." I carried the clothes upstairs before Denise could inspect the gift bag in the closet. Natalie did not call again, but she began sending occasional messages, nothing intimate. A photograph of the daffodils coming up beside their porch, a question about whether the blue bowl she still had was safe for the dishwasher. It wasn't. She replied, "I thought not. Marcus said it was fine." I wrote, "Marcus once put a wooden cutting board in the dishwasher." She sent back, "He still thinks it just cracked." That was the first time we joked together after Christmas. I smiled, then felt disloyal to my own hurt. Healing could be irritating that way. It refused to wait until every question was settled. Marcus remained silent. On Thursdays, I spoke with Camille. On alternate Sundays, one of us drove the 2 hours. We did not spend every visit revisiting old injuries. Sometimes we went to a movie or walked through an antiques market where Camille prevented me from buying a lamp she described as haunted by a dentist. One afternoon, she came to my house and found me moving the dining table back toward the window. "Are the dinners returning?" she asked. "No. Denise says the room needs more light." Since when does Denise care about interior design? She wants to use the table for a jigsaw puzzle. In your house? She says her cat steals pieces. Camille took the other end of the table. "I'm beginning to understand your friendship. We shifted it 6 inches before realizing the rug had folded beneath one leg. I knelt to straighten it. Camille said, 'Natalie called me.' I looked up. Why? To apologize. For Christmas. For letting me think you were invited." I stood slowly. "How did that go?" I told her I appreciated the call. And nothing. "Camille." She said she was trying to take responsibility without making you do it for her. That sounded like Natalie. "What did you say?" I said, "Good. You could have given her more than one word. You told me not to let you manage my relationships." I opened my mouth, then shut it. Camille smiled. "Painful, isn't it?" "Extremely." She bent to the rug. "Help me lift." By May, the family group message had become mostly birthday greetings and forwarded jokes from Wayne. Without a monthly dinner, people stopped assuming they would see one another soon. Small tensions that I once translated or dismissed remained where they landed. Marcus forgot Elaine and George's anniversary until the following day. In the past, I would have reminded him a week ahead, then sent another message that morning. Elaine responded to his late greeting with, "Thank you, Marcus, and nothing more." He called me that evening. "Why didn't you remind me?" he asked. "I didn't know I was supposed to. You always do. I used to." He sighed. "Elaine's mad. She may be disappointed. Same thing." "No. What am I supposed to do?" "Call her." I texted. "Then you have done what you chose to do. You could just tell me if she's upset. I'm not speaking for Elaine. This is exhausting." "Yes," I said. "It can be." He hung up. A week later, Elaine called and told me Marcus had apologized properly over the phone. "He sounded sincere," she said. "I'm glad. Don't sound too pleased." "I am pleased. You sound like someone reading a weather report." I'm trying not to make his apology about me. That may be healthy, but it's less fun. In June, Marcus announced a Sunday cookout at his house. He sent the invitation 12 days in advance, included a time, and asked everyone to respond. I recognized Natalie's influence in the punctuation. I stared at the message for most of the morning. Camille called before I decided. "Are you going?" she asked. "I don't know. Do you want to?" "I don't know that either." "Excellent. We've made progress. What are you doing?" I'm asking myself whether I want to go. And I might. We agreed not to coordinate our answers. Camille accepted that evening. I waited another day, then did the same. Marcus sent me a private thumbs up. I did not reply. The cookout took place on the first Sunday of June, exactly where our old dinner would have fallen. Marcus had cleaned the patio and arranged folding chairs across the lawn. Natalie set out drinks in metal tubs. Their new house looked softer than it had at Christmas, less like something waiting to be photographed. Only 6 people came. Elaine and George had already committed to a concert. Wayne's back was bothering him. 2 cousins did not respond. Leonard was not family, though Marcus had invited him after the birthday dinner. He arrived carrying hot sauce and said attendance was a moral duty where grilled meat is involved. Camille drove separately. Denise came with me because Natalie had invited her directly. "Try not to start anything," I told Denise as we walked up the driveway. "I'm 67 years old. You are 69. Then I have even less time for nonsense." Marcus hugged me at the door. "Glad you came," he said. "Thank you for inviting me." He looked as if he wanted to say more, but Leonard called from the patio to report that one side of the grill was hotter than the other. Marcus spent most of the afternoon working. He grilled, refilled ice, found chairs, and checked whether everyone had enough to drink. When Darlene asked what time dessert would be served, he looked at Natalie, who looked at the kitchen. No dessert had been planned. Nobody died. Denise found cookies in a cabinet and arranged them on a plate. Marcus thanked her 3 times. I ate a hamburger and talked to Camille about the haunted lamp. I did not enter the kitchen until Natalie asked me to help carry coffee outside. "You okay?" she asked quietly. "Yes." Marcus thought more people would come. People had plans. He thinks they're avoiding us. Are they? I don't know. Then he should ask them. She leaned against the counter. "He thinks they're taking your side. I haven't offered a side. I told him that. And he says you don't have to tell people what to do. They know." I picked up 2 mugs. That gives me more power than I have. He's having a hard time believing that. That is not a problem I can solve. Natalie nodded. As I stepped through the doorway, she said, "Thank you for coming." I looked back at her. I wanted to. She seemed to understand the distinction. The afternoon ended pleasantly enough. Marcus packed leftovers for Elaine and then remembered she was not there. He stared at the containers in his hands, looking more tired than the amount of work should have made him. I recognized that tiredness. It came from monitoring a room while pretending the room was effortless. "Put them in your freezer," I said. He looked at me. It was the only instruction I gave all day. The following Tuesday, he appeared at my back door. He used his key without knocking, then seemed surprised to find Denise and me doing a jigsaw puzzle on the dining table. "That key is for emergencies," I said. "You always said I could come in. I also used to host dinner every month. Some policies have changed." Denise examined a blue puzzle piece. "Should I leave?" "Yes," Marcus said. "No," I said. She looked between us. "This is why democracies fail." I touched her arm. "I'll call you later." She gathered her purse but left the puzzle piece in her pocket. I saw it and decided the cat had probably been innocent all along. Marcus waited until the back door closed. "So this is your life now?" he asked. "Puzzles? You know what I mean." "No, I don't." He moved one of the dining chairs out and sat. The cookout was embarrassing. I thought it was nice. Half the family didn't come. They had reasons. Everybody has reasons now. People always had reasons. I used to keep asking until they found a way around them. Exactly. I stared at him. He leaned forward. "One dinner, Mom." "What?" "Have one dinner here. Invite everybody. End this." "And what?" "This whole thing. Everybody's scattered. Nobody knows where they stand. Elaine barely talks to me. Camille acts like we're acquaintances. Wayne says we should get together and then never does. Have you called him?" I invited him to the cookout. That isn't the same as calling him. You know what I'm saying? Yes. You want me to put everyone back where they were. Is that so terrible? I don't know if where we were was good. It was family. It was a schedule. He stood and paced toward the kitchen. "You're breaking us apart to prove you were important." The accusation landed hard enough that I gripped the table. "I know I was important," I said. "I didn't know I was infrastructure. What is that supposed to mean? It means everybody showed up because I reminded them, fed them, excused them, and told them whatever went wrong wasn't worth discussing. Now I've stopped, and you're angry that relationships require work. You like doing it." "Yes. Until I learned what happened when I needed something in return. You needed an invitation. I needed my son to care whether I had a chair." He turned away. I said, I have not told anyone to avoid you. I came to your cookout. I paid for your birthday dinner. Natalie and I have spoken. The only person standing here demanding that I erase what happened is you. I want us to move on. Then move. You know I can't fix this by myself. No, I said. You can't fix everyone. You can only fix your part. He stared at me, breathing hard. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then his eyes dropped to the puzzle. It was a picture of a farmhouse in winter, half finished, every loose piece scattered across the table. You always make things look easy, he said. The anger had left his voice. They weren't, I answered. He nodded once, almost to himself. Then he walked to the back door and paused with his hand on the knob. Should I give you the key back? I wanted to say no. I wanted to say he was always welcome. Instead, I said, not if you remember to knock. He took the key from his pocket, looked at it, and closed his hand around it. All right, he said. This time, when he left, he knocked softly on the outside of the door before walking away. Denise came back through the rear door 3 minutes later. She knocked first. Oh, stop it, I said. She entered holding the missing blue puzzle piece between 2 fingers. I borrowed this for emotional support. You stole it. I intended to return it. After completing the same section at your house, now you're attacking my hobbies. She sat where Marcus had been and looked toward the door. Did he leave angry? I'm not sure. That's new. He asked for his key back. Her face sharpened. Did you take it? No. I asked him to knock. And then he did? From outside. Denise turned the blue piece in her hand. That's either touching or deeply strange. Both things can be true. We finished the puzzle without discussing Marcus further. The stolen piece belonged to the farmhouse roof. Denise pressed it into place and ran her palm over the completed picture. There, she said. Family restored. It's a barn. Same maintenance issues. Marcus did not contact me the following day or the day after that. The next evidence of him came through Elaine, though she did not mean to report. He called George, she said while we were having lunch. About what? Fishing. Marcus doesn't fish. He used to go with George and Walter. I know. He complained the entire time. He apparently wants to complain again. I stirred my iced tea. That's nice. Elaine watched me over the rim of her glass. You're not going to ask what they talked about? No. You're burning with restraint. Tell me if you want to tell me. I don't. Then why did you bring it up? Because restraint is less entertaining from this side. A few days later, Wayne mentioned in the family message that Marcus had stopped by with coffee. One of our cousins thanked Marcus for calling about her new job. These were small things, easy things, but they had not been happening before. I resisted treating each one like proof. Camille made that more difficult. During our Thursday call, she said, Marcus called me. I waited. Aren't you going to ask why? You dislike when I manage your relationship. That has never stopped you before. I'm growing. Slowly. What did he want? He apologized. The word tightened my chest. For Christmas? No. For using my car 20 years ago. I put down the dish towel I had been folding. He remembered? Apparently you reminded him. I mentioned it once. He said he called about that because it was the first specific thing he could fix. How did you respond? I told him he still owed me gas. Camille. He sent me $40. I laughed. That was an expensive tank. Interest. Did you accept it? Of course. I could hear the smile in her voice. Then she became serious. I told him the car wasn't really the point. What did he say? He said he knew. I waited for more. Camille said it was awkward. He tried to explain, and I told him explanations were where he hid. Then we talked about Dad for a while. My eyes burned unexpectedly. Was it good? I asked. It wasn't bad. That wasn't my question. It's the answer I have today. She had stolen my line to Natalie. You're impossible, I said. Family trait. Marcus began sending me brief messages that did not contain requests. Saw cardinals in the yard. Dad would have claimed they were waiting for his birdseed. Uncle George still tells the same fishing story. Natalie says the blue bowl survived hand washing. Thought you'd want to know. I answered, but I did not turn each exchange into a door he had to walk through. If he sent one sentence, I sent one or two. If he did not reply, I did not follow him with another. Near the end of August, he called while I was cutting peaches at the kitchen counter. "Is this a good time?" he asked. I almost checked the screen to make sure it was him. "It's fine. I was wondering if I could come over Saturday." "What for?" "To talk." The knife paused against the cutting board. "About what?" "Us." I looked at the bowl of peaches, bright and slippery in their own juice. "All right," I said. 2 o'clock? "That's fine, I'll knock." He did. At precisely 2, 3 taps sounded at the front door. No slow second pattern. Just a guest waiting to be admitted. Marcus stood on the porch holding a covered casserole dish with both hands. Even through the towel, I recognized the shape. "What is that?" I asked. "A peace offering." My heart sank. He saw it happen. "No," he said quickly. "That sounded wrong. It's not supposed to buy anything. What is it?" "Dressing." "In August?" "I've been practicing." The absurdity of the sentence loosened something in me. I stepped aside. He carried the dish into the kitchen and set it on the table. When he removed the towel, the top of the dressing was dark and cracked in several places. It smelled strongly of sage. "How many times have you made this?" I asked. 4. "And this is the best one?" He looked offended. "By far." I took a spoon from the drawer. Marcus held up a hand. "You don't have to eat it. You brought food into my house and expected me not to inspect it? Fair." The spoon broke through the crust with resistance. The center was dense enough to hold a retaining wall. I tasted a small bite. Marcus watched my face. "You used fresh cornbread. I left it out overnight." "Covered?" "Yes." It couldn't dry. The recipe said cover with a towel. It said loosely. He closed his eyes. That one word has ruined my month. It's also too salty. The broth said low sodium. Did the butter? Butter has sodium? I laughed. He did too, but only briefly. Then he sat at the table. I remained standing with the spoon in my hand. Marcus looked at the casserole. The first time was worse. I assumed. I kept thinking the recipe was missing something. It isn't. I know. He rubbed his hands together, then rested them flat on the table. That's part of why I made it. I sat across from him. He swallowed. I wanted to understand what I was asking you for that day. A recipe. That's what I told myself. The kitchen seemed very quiet. He continued. Natalie told me in November that she didn't want you at Christmas dinner. Hearing it said so plainly hurt even after all these months. I argued with her, he said. Not very well. I told her you'd be upset. She said she needed one holiday to feel like the house was hers. I know. She told you? She apologized. He nodded. She said she came here. Did that make you angry? Yes. The honesty surprised me. I thought she was taking your side, he continued. I thought everybody was taking your side. But mostly I was angry because she said what I didn't want to say, which was that I knew. His eyes met mine. I knew you didn't understand, he said. I kept telling Natalie I'd handled it, and I kept telling myself I would talk to you later. Every time you mentioned Christmas, I changed the subject or said we were still planning. I hoped Natalie would change her mind. Then the week came, and she didn't. So you called for the recipe. I needed the recipe. And if I asked for that, I had to tell you. You still didn't tell me. She did. I know. He looked down at his hands. When you asked if you were coming, I wanted to say yes, he continued. But that would have started a fight with Natalie while she was standing right there. I knew if I said no, you'd be hurt. So you chose me. Yes. The word landed without defense. I chose the person who would forgive me, he said. The person who always has. My throat tightened. Then when you didn't make it easy, I got angry. I told myself you were punishing me. I blamed Camille. I blamed Natalie. I blamed you for telling people. Anything except admitting I had done exactly what you said. He looked toward Walter's skillet. I made you the safest person to disappoint. Neither of us spoke for a while. Outside, a lawnmower started somewhere down the block. The ordinary sound moved through the silence and away. Marcus said, "I'm sorry I excluded you from Christmas. I'm sorry I waited until I needed something to tell you. I'm sorry I asked you to help us cook the dinner you weren't allowed to attend. And I'm sorry I spent months trying to make your reaction worse than what I did." His voice broke slightly on the final sentence. He did not look away. I folded my hands in my lap because I did not trust them to remain still on the table. "Did Natalie tell you to say this? She told me I owed you an apology. That isn't the same question." "No, she didn't tell me what to say. Why now? Because I kept waiting until I could apologize without feeling ashamed." A sad smile touched his mouth. "Apparently, that isn't going to happen." "No," I said, "probably not." He nodded. "I've missed you," I told him. "I've missed you too. I didn't know whether you missed me or the dinners." I didn't either. That answer hurt, but it was true enough to trust. Marcus glanced at the ruined dressing. "I thought people stopped coming around because you made them choose. Then I started calling them. And they were busy, or annoyed with me, or surprised I knew their numbers." I smiled. "Uncle George said you used to call him every week after Dad died." I did. I hadn't called him alone in almost 2 years. He liked hearing from you. I know that now. Marcus leaned back. "You weren't keeping everyone together. You were carrying the relationships for us. Sometimes, most of the time." I did not argue. He said, "I don't want you to start doing it again. Good. But I don't know what comes next. Neither do I. Do you forgive me?" The question hovered between us. "I believe you mean what you said," I answered. He gave a faint smile. "Natalie warned me you might say that. It isn't no." "I know. It also isn't permission to go back. I know that too." He stood, then looked at the casserole. "Should I take this?" "Yes." "That fast? It could damage the table." He laughed, and this time the sound remained. At the front door, he paused. "I love you, Mom. I love you too." He stepped onto the porch, still holding the casserole. Then he turned. "Can I call you Thursday?" "That's Camille's day." "Of course she has a day. You can call Friday." "Friday," he said. He walked down the path. At the sidewalk, he shifted the dish to one arm and raised his free hand. I waved back. When Friday came, the phone rang at 7. Marcus did not ask for anything. For the first time in a long while, neither did I. Our Friday calls began awkwardly. Marcus asked what I had done that week. I told him. Then we reached a silence where one of us would normally have filled the space with a request or an instruction. The first time, he said, "Well, I guess that's it." "I guess so." "Okay. Talk next week? All right. Love you. Love you too." The call lasted 11 minutes. By October, we could make it half an hour. He told me about work, the loose railing on his porch, and a pair of cardinals that had begun attacking their reflections in his dining room windows. I told him about the movie Denise and I walked out of because she claimed the lead actor had dishonest eyebrows. "What does that mean?" Marcus asked. "I have no idea. Did you get your money back?" "No." "Your father would have asked. Dad would have watched the rest out of spite. He finished 3 terrible movies that way." Marcus laughed. "Remember that detective one where the brother did it? The brother always did it. He wasn't even a character until the last 10 minutes. That was Walter's main objection. The memory sat between us without becoming grief or a lesson. We were simply 2 people who remembered the same man complaining in the same chair. Marcus came by twice, knocking both times. The first visit lasted 20 minutes. The second stretched into dinner because I had made too much soup. I did not tell him I had made extra on purpose. He carried his bowl to the kitchen, rinsed it, and wiped the counter without being asked. Then he took out the trash. "You know," I said, "a person can overcorrect." He tied the bag. "I'm building character. You're using the wrong knot." He looked at me. "I'm sorry," I said. "Your knot is perfect. Thank you. It's going to open in the can. I'm willing to live with that." I let him. Natalie joined us for coffee one Sunday afternoon. She brought a bakery box, which pleased me until I discovered lemon cake inside. "Is this a challenge?" I asked. "An offering. Those have caused trouble before." She glanced at Marcus. He said, "I'm staying out of this." "You're learning," I told him. The cake was good, though Denise later called the frosting timid. Before Natalie left, I retrieved the plain gift bag from the hall closet. "These were supposed to be yours last Christmas," I said. She looked inside, then folded the tissue paper back over the earrings. "You don't have to give them to me." "I know." "Why now?" "Because I bought them for you, and I still want you to have them." Her eyes filled. She hugged me carefully, as if too much pressure might change my mind. "Thank you," she said. "They cannot go in the dishwasher." She laughed against my shoulder. In November, Elaine hosted Thanksgiving and assigned dishes with renewed confidence. I received sweet potatoes. Marcus received rolls and ice. "Why does he still get groceries?" I asked. "Because last time he forgot dessert. That was Natalie. I'm not putting their marriage on trial over pie. I made the sweet potatoes and no additional food." Marcus and Natalie arrived on time. He had the rolls, the ice, and a container of dressing. Elaine looked inside. "Who assigned this?" "Nobody," Marcus said. "I'm practicing." I tasted a corner before dinner. The texture had improved. The sage had not. "You put 3 tablespoons in this, 2.5. Your tablespoons are reckless." It smelled weak. "Sage gets stronger while it bakes. That should be in the recipe." "It is." He stared at me. "Near the bottom," I added, "I am beginning to believe this recipe is a character test. You're failing with persistence." He smiled. "That sounds like a family trait." At dinner, people tried his dressing. George said it was good. Denise asked George whether he had recently lost his sense of smell. Camille took a second spoonful after she thought Marcus had stopped watching. He noticed anyway. Their relationship remained cautious, but they had begun calling each other without reporting the conversations to me. When Camille mentioned a restaurant they both remembered from years ago, Marcus corrected her description of the pie. They argued for 5 minutes and then made plans to go there together. I did not offer to join them. That restraint felt like growth and exclusion at the same time. After Thanksgiving, Marcus helped George carry folding chairs to the basement. He called Wayne before leaving to check on his back. He packed no leftovers until Elaine offered them. None of it was dramatic. That was what made me believe it. The first Christmas decoration appeared in my house on December 1st. I placed a wreath on the front door and hung Walter's skillet-shaped ornament near the center of the tree. I did not extend the dining table. On the second Friday of December, Marcus called earlier than usual. "Are you sitting down?" he asked. "I'm in the kitchen." "You can stay standing." That sounded more serious than I meant. What happened? "Nothing. Natalie and I want to host Christmas." My hand tightened around the phone. He continued quickly. "Christmas Day. Dinner at 4. Her family will be there, and we're asking Camille, Elaine, and George. Wayne, Denise. Natalie said she's family adjacent. That is how infections spread. I also invited Leonard, but he said he goes wherever the ham is." "He does." Marcus paused. "And we want you there." The kitchen seemed to tilt slightly, though I had known this invitation might come. "Not afterward," he added. "Not for dessert. At dinner." I sat. "Why?" I asked. "Because you're my mother. That was true last year." "I know." The answer contained no defense. I looked toward the blue serving dish in the glass cabinet. "What do you want me to bring?" "Nothing." My body went still before my mind could catch up. Marcus heard it. "I mean, we don't need food from you," he said. "We want you. If you decide to bring wine or something because arriving empty-handed makes you itch, That's your choice. But you don't have a job. Who's making the dressing? I am. Marcus. I'm on attempt 7. 8 if we count Christmas. We don't count Christmas. I do. Fair. I traced a circle in the table with one finger. Does Natalie want me there? Yes. Did she ask you to invite me? No. She told me she was going to invite you herself. I said I needed to. That mattered. I already have plans Christmas Eve, I said. I'm inviting you for Christmas Day, with Denise and Camille. Good. I'm not canceling them. I'm not asking you to. And I won't come early. Dinner is at 4. Come at 3:30, 3:45. Fine, I'm serious. So am I. Neither of us spoke. Then he asked, will you come? I need to think about it. Okay. His disappointment was audible, but he did not push. The following Thursday, I drove to Camille's. She had already received her invitation. Are you going? I asked as she made coffee. I asked you first last time. And I said I didn't know. Do you know now? No. She handed me a mug. Then neither do I. That is manipulative. I learned from a complicated woman. We took our coffee into the living room. The photograph of Camille and Walter still hung slightly crooked. I had stopped wanting to fix it. What are you afraid will happen? She asked. I'll go. The meal will be lovely, and everyone will decide the past year was unnecessary. Was it? No. Then a nice dinner can't make it unnecessary. It could make it look that way. To whom? I thought of Elaine, Wayne, Leonard, Darlene, people who had watched the conflict from different distances. To me, perhaps. Camille tucked her feet beneath her. Going because you want to go isn't surrender. What if I don't know whether I want to? Do you want to see Marcus on Christmas? Yes. Do you want to see Natalie? I considered. Yes. Do you want his dressing? Not based on current evidence. She smiled. Then we'll eat before we go. We? I'll go if you go. You shouldn't make that decision for me. I'm not. I want to be there, and I want to be able to leave with you if it gets strange. That sounds like making sides. It sounds like carpooling. I called Marcus the next evening. We'll come, I said. We? Camille and I. His relief came out as a breath. Good. We'll be there at 3:45. Perfect. And we're leaving when we choose. Mom, I'm setting expectations, okay? Leave when you choose. Thank you. Bring nothing. We'll see. Mom, I heard you. Christmas Eve was at Denise's again, but this time I went because it was the plan, not because I had been rejected somewhere else. Calvin came with a woman named Marjorie, whom Denise inspected so openly that Calvin threatened to eat in the garage. Esther brought pie. Leonard brought 2 kinds of mustard for a ham he had not cooked. Camille drove down that morning and stayed in my guest room without comparing herself to a fitted sheet. I brought wine. No dressing? Leonard asked when I arrived. No. He looked at Denise. Was there an accident? She's learning not to purchase affection with carbohydrates, Denise said. I don't support that. We ate, exchanged small gifts, and argued about the same old movie. At the end of the evening, Denise packed food for everyone except me. You're going to Marcus's tomorrow, she said. Arrive hungry. That feels medically unwise. Trust him. I do. The answer surprised me. Christmas morning, I woke before 6. The house was dark, the list in my head quiet. No cornbread waited beneath a towel. No onions needed chopping. My mother's blue dish remained behind the cabinet glass. Camille came downstairs at 8 in a robe and found me drinking coffee. You made breakfast? She asked. Toast. You are transformed. At 3:30, I changed into the same green dress I had worn the previous Christmas, not to make a point. I simply liked the way it fit. I picked up my purse. Camille looked at my empty hands. No wine? He said, bring nothing. You listened? I'm trying something new. We reached Marcus and Natalie's at 3:44. Cars lined both sides of the street. Through the front windows, I could see movement, lights, people carrying bowls from one room to another. The smell reached me before we got to the porch. Cornbread, butter, onion, and too much sage. Camille glanced at me. Don't. I didn't say anything. Your face did. I raised my hand and knocked. Marcus opened the door wearing the charcoal sweater I had given him for his birthday. For a second, neither of us moved. Then he smiled. You came. You invited me. He stepped aside, leaving the doorway completely open. Come in, Mom, he said. Your chair's waiting. The foyer looked different with people in it. Coats crowded the hooks. Shoes had collected beside the wall. Somewhere deeper in the house, Leonard was arguing that a ham could not rest too long because resting is what meat does after you eat it. Marcus took my coat. You're wearing the sweater, I said. It's a good sweater. You once said charcoal made you look tired. I was 39. I knew very little. Camille stepped in behind me. 40 has given him wisdom. It has given me lower back pain. He hugged her, and the embrace was real, if brief. Natalie came from the dining room wearing the gold earrings. She stopped when she saw me. Hi, she said. Hello, I'm glad you came. So am I. She hugged me. There was still a moment of uncertainty before our bodies settled into it, but neither of us pretended otherwise. Darlene called my name from the living room and waved. Scott and Andrew stood near the fireplace with their wives. Paige was opening wine. Elaine and George had arrived early, which Elaine announced as though she deserved a medal. Wayne sat in Walter's old armchair, the one Marcus had taken after we cleared out the den, with a cushion behind his back. Denise appeared beside me holding a glass of wine. I've inspected the kitchen, she whispered. Of course you have. He has 3 timers going. Marcus, one may be the smoke alarm. Did you touch anything? I'm a guest. That has never stopped you. Leonard leaned around the doorway. The dressing is dark on top. So was mine last year. I remember. You ate half of it. I remember that too. Marcus pointed toward the living room. Everyone out of the kitchen. I'm not in the kitchen, Leonard said. You're leaning into it. Legally distinct. Natalie laughed and took my purse. Can I put this in the office? Yes. She paused near the dining table and frowned. Wait. Ruth, would you rather sit beside Marcus or Camille? I looked at the place settings. Marcus's name was not written anywhere, and neither was mine. Natalie was simply asking before moving a chair. Where were you planning to put me? Beside Marcus with Camille on your other side. That's fine. Okay. She shifted my water glass 2 inches to make room for a serving bowl, then stopped with her hand around it. Is this okay? Natalie, it's a water glass. I know. You can move it. She did, smiling slightly. I went into the living room and sat with Darlene. She complimented my dress and told me about a Christmas market she had visited with Paige. Nobody mentioned the year before. The omission did not feel like denial. It felt like everyone understanding that an old bruise did not need to be pressed to prove it had existed. From the kitchen came the sound of something metal hitting the floor. Marcus said, It's fine. Natalie called, What was it? Nothing important. Was it the gravy? No. A pause. Yes. I stood halfway before catching myself. Camille noticed. Sit. I'm only looking. You're leaning. Legally distinct. Leonard raised his glass to me. Marcus appeared holding an empty saucepan and wearing a streak of gravy on one sleeve. Does anybody know if flour works after the gravy is already made? Every face turned toward me. He closed his eyes. I walked into that. I asked, Do you want help? He looked at Natalie. She said, Yes, please. That was all it took. I followed them into the kitchen. Gravy covered part of the stove, but enough remained in the pot to rescue. Marcus reached for flour. Cornstarch, I said. The flour will lump. You just asked whether he wanted help, Natalie reminded me. You're right. I folded my hands. Marcus, would you like a suggestion? His mouth twitched. Please suggest aggressively. I showed him how to mix cornstarch with cold water before adding it. I did not take the whisk from his hand. The gravy thickened. That's it? He asked. That's it. I expected more ceremony. You spilled the ceremony on your sleeve. Natalie handed me a towel. "Would you mind filling the water glasses?" I'd be happy to. The request felt different because it had edges. I knew where it began and ended. While I filled glasses, Marcus opened the oven. The dressing sat in a red casserole dish, crisp around the edges and darker than mine usually was. He caught me looking. "Don't say anything yet." I did not speak. Your eyebrows did. "Family trait," Camille said from the doorway. "Everyone out," Marcus told her. "I came for wine." "Nobody believes you." By 4:20 we were seated. The table was crowded, but not with one person's work. Darlene had brought green beans, Elaine made potatoes, Paige brought a cranberry dish with orange peel, Natalie had cooked the ham, and Marcus had made the dressing and the repaired gravy. Denise contributed bread she admitted buying. Leonard had brought mustard and considered that sufficient. Marcus stood at the head of the table with the serving spoon in his hand. For a second he looked toward me. I thought he might make a speech. I hoped he would not. "Ruth gets the first spoonful," Leonard announced. "I was already doing that," Marcus said. "Then we agree." Marcus served me a square from the corner. The edge cracked beneath the spoon. He passed the dish to Darlene and sat beside me. That mattered more than being served first. He did not hover while everyone ate. He did not watch my fork. He took his own portion, passed the gravy, and asked George whether he had gone fishing again. I tasted the dressing. The cornbread had dried properly this time. The center held together without being heavy. He had used too much sage, though less recklessly than before. The edge was dry. Marcus continued talking to George. Under the table, his knee bounced. I took another bite. Leonard tasted his and nodded with exaggerated seriousness. Better than Easter. "You didn't eat it at Easter," Denise said. "Exactly." Darlene said, "I think it's wonderful." "You said that last year," Marcus replied. "I'm your mother-in-law. I support survival." Laughter moved around the table. Marcus glanced at me. "Well?" he asked. Everyone kept eating. No one fell silent for my verdict. "It's good," I said. "Just good?" "The edge is a little dry, I knew it." "And you're still heavy on sage." "He used half the jar," Natalie said. "It was not half. The jar was full in November." Marcus looked betrayed. "Whose side are you on?" Natalie touched one gold earring, apparently Ruth's. The table laughed again, including Marcus. I put another forkful in my mouth. "The texture is right." His knee stopped bouncing. "Does it taste like yours?" he asked. "No." He waited. "It tastes like you've made it 8 times. 9, Natalie said. He threw one away before anybody saw. "That was a structural failure," Marcus said. I smiled. "Then it tastes like 9. He looked at his plate. "Is that bad?" Darlene asked. "No," Marcus said before I could answer. "It's mine." He took another bite. The conversation moved on. Halfway through dinner, Elaine told the story of George trying to string lights from the garage roof and becoming stranded because he kicked the ladder away. George insisted he had not been stranded, only temporarily elevated. Wayne laughed hard enough to hold his back. Camille and Natalie disagreed about the cranberry dish. Leonard asked whether anyone wanted the corner of the dressing, then took it before an answer came. I ate while my food was hot. Once I looked across the table and expected to see Walter. Christmas did that sometimes. It set the old shape of the family over the new one, transparent but exact. His chair was no longer in my house. His hands were not stealing food from the serving dishes. Yet the memory of him did not make the table feel empty. Marcus leaned toward me. "You okay?" "Yes." He did not ask whether I was sure. After dinner, people carried their own plates into the kitchen. I began stacking them beside the sink. Marcus touched my arm. "You don't have to. I know. You can go sit." "I know that too." He looked at the plates, then at me. "Do you want to help?" "Yes." "All right." He washed. I dried. Natalie packed leftovers while Camille and Darlene argued over who should take the remaining potatoes. There was no ceremony to the 3 of us standing in the kitchen. Marcus splashed water onto the floor. Natalie ran out of lids. I opened the wrong drawer twice because I still did not know where everything belonged. That pleased me more than it should have. Marcus handed me a plate. "You missed a spot," I said. I knew this was a mistake. I dried it anyway. When the kitchen was mostly clean, Natalie went to rescue a container from Leonard, who was attempting to fill it entirely with ham. Marcus lowered his voice. "Thank you for coming. Thank you for inviting me." Was it strange? Yes. For me, too. I set the dry plate on the counter. Strange isn't always bad. He nodded. "Next year," he said, "would you show me how much broth you use?" Maybe. Ask in October." He smiled. "Not 3 days before Christmas." "No, I understand." I believed he did. From the dining room, Denise called, "Ruth, Leonard is stealing food. He's taking leftovers," I called back. "He has the serving spoon." I looked at Marcus. He dried his hands. "I'll handle it." He left the kitchen. I remained beside the sink, holding the towel. A year ago, the sentence would have meant he expected me to wait while he kept peace somewhere else. This time, he meant he would handle the serving spoon. I laughed to myself. Natalie returned carrying 2 empty containers. He got the ham. He always does. She leaned against the counter. "How are you? Full?" "You know what I mean." I folded the towel. "I'm glad I came." Her shoulders relaxed. "I'm glad you came too," she said, "and I'm glad you didn't bring anything." The sentence hung there. Natalie's eyes widened. That sounded terrible. A little. I know what you meant. We both began laughing. Marcus came back with the serving spoon and looked between us. "What happened?" "Nothing," Natalie and I said together. He studied us, decided against asking, and put the spoon in the sink. By 8, coats were coming off hooks. Elaine kissed my cheek and invited me to lunch in January. George said he would call Marcus about fishing and made him promise not to complain before they reached the lake. Wayne left with a cushion still tucked behind his back and had to return it. Denise hugged me on the porch. "You survived," she said. "So did the dressing." "Barely. You had 2 helpings. I was collecting evidence." She turned to Marcus. "Next year, less sage." He saluted her. Camille and I stayed another half hour. She and Marcus stood near the tree discussing the old restaurant with the disputed pie. Natalie brought out coffee. Nobody checked the time as if my presence had an expiration. When Camille finally found her coat, Marcus carried 2 containers to the foyer. "One has ham," he said. "The other has dressing. I don't need leftovers." "I know." "Then why are you packing them?" "Because I want you to try the center tomorrow. It's less dry." I considered refusing on principle. Camille took the ham. "I'll solve half the problem." Marcus held the dressing toward me. "Do you want me to take it?" I asked. "Yes." "Then I will." He handed me the container. Outside, the air had turned sharp and clear. Christmas lights reflected across the car windows. Camille walked ahead to unlock the doors while Marcus stayed with me on the porch. "Friday?" he asked. "It's Christmas week. Is that a no?" "No." "Call Friday." He hugged me. I felt the adult weight of him, the unfamiliar charcoal sweater beneath my hands, and for an instant the little boy he had been rose in my memory. I loved that boy. I loved the man in front of me, too. They were not the same person, and neither was I. "Merry Christmas, Mom," he said. "Merry Christmas." He released me before the embrace became an argument for anything else. On the drive home, Camille kept the radio low. "You were watchful," I said. "I was carpooling. You watched Marcus all evening. I watched everyone. What did you decide?" "That the dressing needs less sage. You are avoiding the question." She glanced at me. "I decided he's trying." "Yes. And so are you." "Yes." That's enough for one Christmas. We drove the rest of the way listening to music. At home, the dark dining room waited exactly as I had left it. The table was not extended. The silverware remained in its drawer. My mother's blue serving dish was still behind the glass. I put Marcus's container in the refrigerator. Camille hung our coats, then went upstairs. I turned on the tree lights and sat for a few minutes in Walter's chair. Denise's green socks were on my feet again. The house was quiet but not abandoned. The next afternoon, I warmed the leftover dressing in a small pan. Marcus had been right. The center was better. I ate it at the kitchen table without adding gravy or correcting the sage. When my phone rang, I expected Camille or Denise. It was Marcus. "You're early," I said. "It's not Friday. This doesn't count as the call. What do you need?" He paused. "Nothing," he said. "I wanted to know if the center was less dry." It was. "Really?" "Yes." "And the sage?" "Still too much." "I can live with that." "I know." Through the window, a cardinal landed on the fence and pecked once at the wet wood. Marcus said, "Mom?" "Yes?" "Next Christmas, you can bring the blue dish if you want." I looked toward the cabinet. "What would be in it?" I asked. "Whatever you choose." I smiled. "We'll see," I said. Then we stayed on the phone and talked about something else.